Rich Hayden. I own Virtual Reality Racing Club. We're here at Goodwood Festival of Speed. I'm here with Purple Sector Performance, which is a race driver training, all levels, club championship, all the way up to Le Mans level. What we do is we help them out with race simulation and driver coaching, and we do that using our SimRace Pro simulators, which you see behind me. They're really high-level simulation, and we use virtual reality to make sure that the immersion for the driver is as best as it could be, and giving them the accuracy to be able to follow the right lines and be as accurate with their driving style as they can be. One of the things we use with that is the HTC Vive Pro headset with a real high resolution. It's fantastic for driver training. It's the only way to drive a racing simulator. The average speed improvement or time improvement for a driver, a pro driver, going from screens to VR, is minimum is 1 second a lap, and the average is anywhere between 1.5 and 2 seconds per lap.
minutes, and we are away here at Snetterton. Gordon bounces there. Gordon goes into the back of Harrison, doesn't get this one, and he throws the car in. Harrison wins, Palmer second, Gordon third. Got a car on the grass, several cars off. Vistantillos gets tagged and he's out of the race, and off on the grass. Harrison takes the win. It's going to be Gordon's championship by my mathematics. Hello and welcome along to the official mini challenge eSeries with Virtual Reality Racing Club. This is round 7 of 8 and we've got an exciting 4-race programme for you once again. My name's Richard John Neal. In the commentary box with me, I'm delighted to welcome back Josh Stanton. Josh, great to have you with us once again. Obviously did a fantastic job with us first time, hence you're back with us, and you've got a bit of e-racing experience under your belt now as well.
I have, yes. I've been taking part in Virtual Reality Racing's touring car series, so I can now start to understand what the guys are going through, the preparation that goes in behind the scenes, and kind of the mental side of the racing online now. So a bit more of an insight, and looking forward to seeing what the guys are going to get up to today.
That's great, and you did a super job anyway, so welcome back. It says commentator Paul O'Neill there, but you're very definitely not Paul O'Neill, but you do know Paul. And clerk of the course, as ever, Andy Ringland. Race director Rich Hayden is listening in as well. The KNOCKHILL circuit, one of my favourites up and down the UK, I've got to be honest, and called a fair few races here on TV over the years, covering the Scottish Motor Racing Clubs Championship. Now, at the start, you'll notice that at the start of the programme, I didn't say a warm welcome to KNOCKHILL. You'll always get a warm welcome in terms of the friendliness of the officials, but usually it's wet and usually it's windy. But that's one thing that we're not going to be simulating today. Everything else, though, will be pixel perfect. The 7th of 8 rounds. Next weekend, we've got the finale for you on the Brands Hatch GP circuit. Things are, of course, being now getting back to normal a little bit. A couple of the drivers off back in the real world. You'll remember a couple of weeks ago, Josh Hislop was, as I told you, out racing on the Nürburgring. And this weekend, Alex Toth-Jones is not with us, but we've got Super Sub Senna Proctor. I nearly alliterated that properly. Super Sub 6 Foot Senna Proctor, I suppose to give him his full title, is in the MSL car. We'll talk more about that as the day goes on. The day will unfold a little bit like this, well, exactly like this. 12 noon, we've got qualifying 1, that's underway very, very shortly. Race 1 at half 12, 20-minute race. Followed by, obviously, some interviews with the featured drivers and the podium finishers. Race 2, which will be a reverse grid race, or partially reverse grid race. The top 10 finishers will be reversed to give us the grid for race 2, and that will be another 20-minute race. And then we'll go into our lunch break. We've got another interview for you today in the lunch break to keep you entertained whilst we, us commentators, grab a glass of water and possibly a cheese sarnie or something like that. Then 1:45 qualifying 2, effectively repeating the first half of the day in our double header. Race 3 underway at 2:15 if you want to skip commentary of the qualifying, but we recommend you stay with us the whole time, keep us on and listen to what's going on. 2:45 race 4 is the second of our reverse grid races, and then we'll wrap things up with podium interviews from race 4 and have a little bit of a look forward to what we can expect in terms of the championship next week as we head to the finale on GP circuit at Brands Hatch. Quick look back though at what happened at Croft circuit last time out. Rob Butler barged his way into the pole sitters circle, a very select small circle it is. Dave Marshall second, Jordan Brennan race 1. Qualifying 2, Dave Marshall was denied again with Jack Mack taking pole position. Might do that today because he was quickest in free practice here. Dave Marshall winning race 3 and Luke Kidsley bagging his second race win of the season in race 4. It means the championship standings look like this, with Dave Marshall top of the stack, 172 points clear of Jack Mack, Tobin Lee third, Ryan Elliott in 4th place. Top real world driver is Maximilian Coates. He is in 5th position overall. Second in the real world category is Josh Martin, and 6th overall in the championship. 7th in the overall standings and 5th in the prize fund part of the Sim Racers draw is Jordan Brennan, who we'll be talking to in our lunch break interview. The 3rd real world driver in the standings is 8th overall. It's Isaac Smith. He's closing in on Josh and Max Coates. Then it is Alex Toth-Jones, who will lose points today, of course, as he is testing his Porsche this weekend. And then 5th in class, 42 points behind Alex Toth-Jones, is Rob Butler. And Rob's form, I reckon he could go 4th, maybe 3rd in the real world racing standings by the end of the day. But we'll see how it all pans out. Rob Butler certainly very quick and on great form last weekend. Just having a quick look where he's at the moment, in the top 10 as we'd expect, but not challenging at the top of the standings at the moment. Drivers to watch this weekend very quickly: Max Coates, Dave Marshall, Josh Martin and Tobin Lee. And of those, of course, perhaps the one everyone's going to watch is Dave Marshall, see if he can edge closer to the championship title. And he's very kindly recorded a hot lap for us. So let's have a hot lap of KNOCKHILL with Dave Marshall.
Hi, I'm Dave Marshall, driver of the number 66 Simply Race Sancho Sim Sport DMR car, sponsored by Sills Composites. This is an onboard flying lap of KNOCKHILL in Scotland. So you can see I'm going to set up nice and early here and act as if this is a quali lap. Maximise corner exit here. You can see how steep the hill is on exit, so any time we can gain out of there could be worth a tenth or two by the time we get to the first corner. So coming across the start finish line here, we're going to set up nice and far left after the pit wall into Duffer's Dip, just clip the inside curb there, carry all of our speed down through Leslie's. Try not to lock up a back right, going into turn 3. We're going to grab 4th just before the dip into the most technical part of the track. Nearly clipping the tyres here through the chicane, onto the power nice and early down towards Clark. The back end's really lively going into here, so it could be interesting with a full tank of fuel. Onto Hislops here. Now just before the braking zone, there's a nice little bump, so we want to try and avoid that, so we're going to venture out in the middle of the track and then tuck back left in the braking zone. See, it has a nice bit of squiggle there, trying to get a good run out towards the line, hoping that's good enough for pole. This lap's a 53.72, so I reckon pole lap could be maybe 2/10 quicker, but anyway, thanks for tuning in for round 7 here at KNOCKHILL. That's an onboard flying lap from me, Dave Marshall.
Featured drivers Max Coates for Elite Racing, leading the Real World Drivers' Championship. So we'll be having a little focus on Max over the course of the qualifying session, which is underway. And it is Josh Martin who's quickest at the moment with a 53.951. It was Jack Mack quickest in free practice, going 53.5. So there might be a little bit more time to go out of that. But as we speak, Ryan Elliott goes one step further up. Josh Martin, top real world driver, and qualifying, this is the man that they're trying to keep away from pole position at the moment. Dave Marshall, again featured driver in our first part of the coverage. As you can see, has done plenty of sim racing, is pretty handy as well in real world cars, having taken part in a couple of the scholarships that happen in the past, and he is keen, of course. Don't forget the prize fund for this championship for the top sim racer will include a race weekend in the Mini Cooper Championship. So it's a superb prize which these drivers are working for. Jordan Brennan goes fastest. Jordan Brennan, well, please do stay and watch the interview with Jordan in the lunch break, and you'll find out why that is a bit of a story. Josh Martin is our third covered driver this weekend, the Gloucestershire teenager and real world driver, raced in Mini Challenge Cooper class last year, multiple kart champion, as you can see. Hoping Josh will be our guest for next week's interview, so we'll try and get that sorted out for you. And just to find out a little bit more about Josh, who is very strong in the chat, second in the Real World Drivers' Championship, 65 points down on Max Coates at the moment. That sounds a lot, but with 50 points up for a win, something like a drive-through or some sort of problem could close that down very quickly over the course of the 4 races. Our 4th featured driver is Tobin Lee, who is 3rd in the championship. He's actually 101 points down on Jack MacIntyre at the moment, and was racing last weekend with Jenson Button, you might remember us telling you, in his virtual racing last weekend, so doubling up in his racing efforts. And that's a difficult thing, Josh Stanton, for someone to do, isn't it? Jumping out of one simulated type of car into another, and I'm guessing pretty tiring if you're doing all one championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sim racing is quite a physical sport in itself. Obviously, you don't get the G-forces that you do from a normal car, but it's really mentally exhausting as well, because you have to be so precise. But also switching from one car to another, perhaps front-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive, things like that, you have to adopt your driving style really quickly. So being able to do that and being able to stay quick, it's very impressive.
It's good for real-world drivers as well, isn't it? Good practice to be able to adjust that quickly and get that practice in. And I wanted to ask you, in terms of your touring car, virtual touring car series exploits the last couple of weeks, how's it going, and how are you enjoying it, and who do we need to watch from that series in here?
Well, it's the same kind of names, really. I mean, Dave Marshall, Jack Mack, they're all doing very well in it. I had my first round last week. It's interesting for me just getting used to all the different processes that required for a sim race. So I qualified P2, was chuffed with that, and then I didn't realise, but putting the car into gear on the start finish line, I don't have a clutch on my sim. Jumped the car forward, and that caused me to have a false start. So that really scuppered my race weekend. But yeah, little things like that getting used to. But yeah, it's the similar kind of names that are going to be up there. Senna Proctor was who's I believe is racing this weekend, is going to be he'll be one to watch. He's got plenty of experience around here. Dave Marshall again was rapid in the touring cars. So similar kind of names, but yeah, the cars have just got a little bit more mechanical grip, I'd say, than the minis. They're not quite as jumpy, quite as skittish, but yeah, more mechanical grip and slightly higher top speed. That's the only real difference.
That's good to hear. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, Senna Proctor, it's a little bit of a story coming in this weekend. As I mentioned in the introduction to the programme, coming in to replace Alex Toth-Jones. Alex is away testing ready for the Porsche Championship within 2 racing today, so couldn't make it. And I think Senna might be in for next weekend as well, which will be good to see. The Proctor family, of course, extremely well known. 3 generations of Proctors having raced over the years. People who know my commentary will probably get fed up with me banging on about the 3 generations of Proctors, but you've got Tony Proctor, who's the granddad, who I believe is still racing, or will be if he gets the chance to race on autocross this year, but very well known and renowned rallycross driver back in the day, when rallycross was a lot better than it is these days. I have to say, I find it a little bit insipid at the moment, but back in the old days when Tony Proctor was doing it, it really grabbed my attention. I'm sure it's a great sport. I probably shouldn't go on too much about it, but the machinery, of course, has moved on, as it has in many other leagues of motorsport. But back in the day, it was so accessible. And then, of course, Mark Proctor came along, and my first sort of encounter with the Proctor family was in the Eurocar days, which was a good few years ago now, including several outings here. And Mark, of course, worked his way through up into British touring cars, and now his son Senna doing superbly. And we first encountered Senna actually doing some filming for Motors TV at Scarborough Autograss Club, which is where Tony Proctor still races. And Senna was racing up that day against Katie Milner, believe it or not, who, of course, is now a well-known sports car driver as well. And they cut their teeth, rather than in karting, in junior minis on grass tracks, which teaches people, car control as much as anything else. So, super family, always love seeing them and catching up with them. And same to be said for the Newsham family, because we've got Callum Newsham, who is there at the moment on provisional pole in the Northcott vending machine. And I'm sure his dad would have given him quite a few tips about this, because Callum's dad, Dave Newsham, won the Scottish Legends Cast Championship, which is largely based here. They do have away days. I'd have to dig the records out to see where the away days were the years that Dave Newsham was competing in it. Possibly Anglesey, and possibly Croft as well, back in the day. but I'm sure Dave will have given Callum some tips on how to drive the track. And Dave then moved up from the Scottish Legends Cars Championship into the Nationals, which gets underway next weekend at Croft. So next weekend is going to be an interesting weekend for us, because we're going to have to keep an eye on TSL to see how the National Legends are getting on. And then, of course, Dave Newsham moved into Clio's and then touring cars, where he became a championship, a race-winning driver. And his son doing very well here, making the move into sim racing. Matt Richards is P2. I've got to say, Josh, that the qualifying we're looking at here, we've got 8 minutes to go, but this isn't the pattern that we've been used to, is it? We've been used to seeing somebody going out, banging a quick lap early on, but we're seeing a lot of changes.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think especially around such a short and tight circuit as Knockhill, I think it's all about just stringing that perfect lap together, making sure you've got the space to be able to get through. You know, if you get caught in a little bit of traffic, you can see how close it is. There's, you know, hardly a tenth between the top 5. It's going to be key to try and find that space, get into your rhythm, and get through, because it's something that's so hard around such a short circuit. It's a bit like Brands Indy, trying to get a few laps together where you can get that rhythm and get in the groove. It's tricky around here. So I think perhaps you're going to be looking at drivers slightly towards the end of the session where they've got into their groove, perhaps found a little bit of space. I think that's maybe where the laps will start to come from.
It's going to be interesting to see if that is the way it pans out. Where the camera is now on the chicane, if you ever do go to Knockhill, then that is a superb place to watch. And I have this vivid memory last year, whilst qualifying was going on Saturday on the touring car meeting, of walking around and actually got to the chicane when the Ginetta GT4 Super Cup was going through. And what a place to where you could really see who was committing to the laps, and that was the one place where you could see whether the drivers were really on the button, as it were. They were all committed and all doing their best, but you could just see where that extra little bit of time was coming from as they went through there. And the other thing that always gets me about Knockhill, and I'm not sure, Josh, if you've been, but the thing that gets me about Knockhill is if you get a chance to walk right the way around the outside of the track walk itself is even better, because what you don't appreciate, and this is not to the detriment of the simulation that you're seeing here is exactly as you would see it on TV, I have to say. But to walk the track in real life, there are some real strong gradients there.
Yeah, no, I have. I did a test day there back in, when was it? Probably about February time, pouring with rain, as I probably shouldn't be surprised. But yeah, it really is. It's a really blind circuit. You know, lots of blind apexes, lots of blind exits, and you've got to sit there as you're coming into the corner, look through, and you've just got to hope that the car is going to stay on track, especially coming up through that chicane. And I think it's Clark Curve, the right-hander. I might be wrong there, but yeah, you've just got to trust that the car is going to sit, and then that you're going to make that exit, because I mean, we've seen already there's a lot of guys going off into the gravel just where they've just got it slightly wrong. And that's going to be key to the perfect lap, is just trusting that you're going to stay online and make it over there. But for example, the first corner here where we just see someone coming through now, it's blind over the apex, and you've just got to send the car in and hope that it sticks on the exit.
What car were you testing in when you went?
I was in the Mini.
Cool.
Which shows, I mean, it was amazing. It was my first time around Knockhill, and to do it in a Mini is you know, pretty scary at points, just sending it over a crest, for example, when the car goes light. But yeah, there's no other feeling like it's a brilliant little track, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the guys will get on racing here, because I'm excited to race here when we get up there in I think it's maybe late August.
It's a bank holiday weekend, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's one thing doing a qualifying lap here, but it's going to be another one racing. It's all about keeping it on the black stuff, keeping it clean, because it's just so easy to, you know, get pushed onto the grass and that you lose, you know, 3 or 4 places like that. So it's all about keeping it on the black stuff, keeping it clean, and make your places that way, I think.
I do love coming up here. It's a pilgrimage every year. I don't think I'll be flying up this year. We normally get flown up, but I think I might have a nice long drive and just sort of take the time and get up and enjoy it. But the welcome you get, as I say, from the track people, Gillian Butcher and her family and the team, Duncan Vincent and the team, always such a great welcome. Unfortunately, we always tend to go, when we're doing the presentation shots for the TV, we always tend to stand in the middle and have the fourth crossings in the background, so that probably gets a bit repetitive for people, but it's such a super view. And when you're filming, you have to wait for a break in the rain normally to go and do it. Sorry to bang on about the weather, but it's here's the cliche, which again everyone will be expecting. from me as we're at Knockhill. We haven't seen the shot of the hill in the background yet, but people say that if you can't see the hill, it's raining. If you can see the hill, it's going to rain. So I spin that out every time, but it is true. But it's just such a great place to come to, and the team at Knockhill over the years, it's not just the organisation. In terms of broadcast, the Radio Knockhill, which was founded by Gary Stagg, who's got that commentary tower you can sort of see in the middle. It's always been the best team in terms of output and getting stuff across to people technically. Gary Stagg, who set it all up, actually sourced some equipment for me back in the day when I started doing post-production commentary from home. And it's just such a wonderful team, technically excellent, friendly, and helpful in terms of advice, and just absolutely super people. We've got 3 minutes to go on the clock. Callum Newsham's still there. Matt Richards P2. Jack Mack's up to third now. And then Tobin lead. Dave Marshall is only in 6th place. Now this is what Jordan Brennan... Oh, now Marshall pops in a quick lap. Exactly as Josh Stanton predicted. Improving in the later stages. Goes 4th. Jordan Brennan down in 6th. Jordan, I know, was hoping for the double pole this weekend, but everybody else wants that as well. So it's Newsham, Richards, MacIntyre, Marshall, Lee and Brennan, your top 6. And let's give a shout out to Max Bird in 7th from Brian Elliott. Then it is Tom Williams in 9th place, Senna Proctor on his debut in 10th.
I'm amazed at how close it is at the top. I mean, there's thousands of seconds between the top 6. It's going to be really, really close. And as I said, I think with the racing, it's a tricky track to overtake. So it's just going to be consistency, making sure you keep it on the black stuff, defend your racing line, and don't make any silly moves. I think that's going to be crucial.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. This part of the circuit we're looking at is coming onto Railway Straight and down into the hairpin. And we're looking at Ryan Elliott in the number 2 car. Ryan currently running in 8th position in the Fanatec car. Runs a little bit wide. It's a huge climb, isn't it? Up through the the hairpin, Taylor's hairpin. Massive climb. The hairpin itself, when you think of a hairpin, or when I think of a hairpin, you tend to think of them, it's a tight corner. But you tend to think of it as flat, but there's a huge uphill gradient there.
It is, it's really easy to get on the throttle slightly early there, especially in a front-wheel drive car like the Mini with lots of torque. And the car will just understeer, it will wash out. And if you watch perhaps some of the touring car onboards from when they do a pole position lap, they always talk about not biting off too much at that last hairpin. It's really easy to go in slightly too deep on the brakes or get on the power slightly too early, and you'll just wash out and you'll lose all of the speed and all of the time that you've found throughout the lap. So it's really crucial that you just nail that last hairpin. And it's interesting to see some of the guys all trying different lines through there. Some of them going in slightly deeper to get rid of the slight uphill camber that you have. Some of them going in slightly shallower, trying to veer off. It's really, really interesting to see everyone's different lines through there.
You're seeing a bit varied approaches. Another one there, which Jack MacIntyre coming through now is currently running in 3rd place. But how refreshing as we get to the later stages of the season here, that we've got new drivers up towards the sharp end. And I'd say a little bit of a surprise for me, but a pleasant surprise nonetheless, and keeping the championship alive. We think that Dave Marshall is going to struggle to wrap things up this weekend. It might be possible, but at the moment, with Jack Mack ahead of him in 3rd position, things should go to the last round.
He's just put it on pole.
Look at that. Exactly as you called. So, Dave Marshall, what about that? Absolutely, we're going to have a chat with him after qualifying. It's not quite done yet because we've got a tiny little bit of time to go. Callum Newsham down to... You know what, I tempted fate there because I was writing down the top 10 and I put Dave Marshall down in 4th position. So that's my fault. Everyone else can blame me for that. It's Marshall and Newsham on the front row, and it means that Dave has a row advantage over Jack Mack. Tobin Lee still 5th, Jordan Brennan in 6th place as the clock continues to tick down on our qualifying. Senna Proctor 10th at the moment on his debut. And Dave Marshall, I actually thought Callum was going to grab the pole there for a minute, but he might have to wait until the second race to be able to do that. Just jot down some more of these times as we head towards our first race of the day. Max Bird in 7th place from Ryan Elliott. And then we had Tom Williams in 9th. And the top 10 completed by Senna Proctor. The race gets underway, of course, we'll be looking out for the reverse grid during the race. But rather than talking about reverse grids at the moment, we're talking about who's off the front. And once again, Dave Marshall. Dave, I don't think you saw the script for this one, but normally you come out, set the pole lap fairly early on. But just goes to show how hard you were working at it. First of all, congratulations on that pole. Another 6 points in the arsenal. But talk us through that session.
Yeah, it was a difficult session, that. Yeah, just I don't know. It's one of them tracks. It's that technical. You've got to hook up every section for you to even post a lap in the top 10. And at the start of the lap, it was a mixture between locking up tyres or not getting the perfect run on the straight, or a number of things really. So it took till the last lap of the session before I hooked it all together. But yeah, I was cutting it a bit fine. Crossed the line with about 1.5 litres of fuel left to do the flying lap. So I was clutching it all the way after I'd set that lap to get back to the pit. So luckily I didn't come in the pits really. Yeah, it's going to be a very difficult race though.
But you're where you need to be off the start. So have you actually raced here before in sim racing?
No, I've never even driven Knockhill on a sim before. I've driven the rallycross track, but obviously that's very, very different. Yeah, it's going to be a case of just consistency, I think, for this one.
Okay, well, we wish you well with that. Thanks, and you're one of our featured drivers. You're always a featured driver, of course, anyway, being at the sharp end. But well done on pole. And that takes the championship gap out to 178 points. I'm not even going to talk about wrapping up the championship. So 178 points over Jack Mack, but he had the upper hand on you in the early stage. So I know he's going to want to nibble away at you in the race. So best of luck for the race. We look forward to seeing you afterwards.
Cheers. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Dave. Let's have a word with Max Coates, who's our other featured driver, the Elite Motorsport entry. Max, are you there? And how was qualifying 11th place? But a little bit more to come. I think Max has gone off for a snooze. Not surprising, because he worked so hard during the week. Difficult man to pin down with what he does. He is in the commentary stream, so we'll try it again. Max, can you hear us? Max Coates?
Yeah, I'm here. I forgot I needed to press the button to talk.
Ah!
So, I was nattering away to myself, but not to the rest of the world.
11th place, so a little bit more to come.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not too unhappy with my time. I think to be in the 53s is good, but yeah, I just want to make sure that I get myself into the top 10 and put myself somewhere for the reverse grid race. That's my aim.
And you've got Josh Martin right alongside you on the grid. He's the man closest to you in the championship. 65 points is the advantage at the moment to you in class, but Josh is going to be keeping you under pressure. Yeah,
him and Isaac Smith. So yeah, I think I'm right by them. So as long as I'm not dropping too many points, then all's well and good. I think if I can just finish in the top 10 in every race to the end of the year, then there's no reason that I can't do the job. And if you're in the top 10 in race 1, then you've got a fair shout at the podium in race 2.
It's a good call, and it's nice to be racing on a KNOCKHILL configuration and not get wet in between, isn't it?
Yeah, and I tell you what, this version is so good.
Yeah.
The mod for this track is brilliant. It's so close to real life. So yeah, it's great to be able to drive it, and it's really nice to be able to drive a KNOCKHILL circuit that is so close to the real thing.
That's good to hear. And how soon after this meeting, I know you're focusing on this meeting, but how soon after do you start focusing on Brands GP? Because I know the mindset for you will be the same as the other guys. Is it pretty much this afternoon that you'll be on Brands GP getting ready for next week?
Not really. I think my prep for Brands GP is going to be about Friday night next week.
Oh yeah, you're a busy lad at the moment.
Yeah, coaching is starting up again, and we've got the pre-season tyre test for the Real World Mini Challenge on Thursday. So yeah, things are kicking off again. So I think my attention is going to be elsewhere until sort of Friday night, and then I'll really try and focus and just try and get the job done.
I was saying on the opening to the programme today, it's been lovely having this championship to fill what was a massive void, sort of 7 weeks ago, and when we were planning it in the 3 or 4 weeks before that. There was a huge void and nothing was happening. But as the weeks have gone on, we've had the story of the championship developing. We've met new characters. seeing new people that we need to look out for in the real world when they get there. But also we've seen the world opening up again, and this week, I've been, offered some filming, and things are gradually getting back to life, and you're out there coaching as well. So it is giving us it's taken us through from the dark and distant times to the new light, hopeful times ahead.
Absolutely. I think, the whole ethos of this eSeries has been to get sim drivers to get used to real world things and hopefully help them with that transition to the real world, and also to allow the real world drivers to get used to driving on sims, and be able to use that to benefit their real world competition. So hopefully there's been a decent crossover, and the two different disciplines can do more of each other's in the future.
It's been great for me. I've learned so much about the sim racers and mindsets and everything else. So it's been a good opportunity for me. I'm going to let you get ready for the race. You've only got a couple of minutes to go. Good luck for the race, Max, and I hopefully catch you on the podium.
Thanks very much.
Max, they're lining up on 11th on the grid, but with his two key championship challenges in terms of the real world class, right with him, Josh Martin is 65 points down at the moment. Further 7 points down is, in fact, a little bit more than that, just a little bit, is Isaac Smith. So it's all very much to play for in both categories, the real world racers and the sims, as we flash up the entry list for you on screen. But who's your money on for this one then, Josh? Are we thinking Dave Marshall again from pole?
If Dave can get away, I think potentially, because it's such a small and tight track, I think, if you can build that gap and you don't have to cover your defensive lines, then I think you can get away quite well. But if Callum can manage to chase him through and keep on his bumper and keep him honest, keep him defending, then I think the pack can probably stick with him, being such a tight grid and the way it formed in qualifying. I think the pack can probably stick with him, and then we'll see if, does he make a mistake? Does someone make a move? That'll be interesting to see. But I think, it'll be interesting to see whether if Dave can get away, my money's on him. If Callum can keep him honest, then I think it's anyone's.
Callum's got the boost of confidence on his side over the last few rounds. And if we look at his sequence of results, he's been getting stronger and stronger as the season's been going on. If we go back 2 weeks, he was in the top, well inside the top 10 on 3 of the 4 races. And I'm just trying to think, drive through, I think, didn't it, Croft in one of them, but grabbed a podium, a maiden podium last time out, Croft, in race 2, and he'll have that. So the podium he had was on a reverse grid race, but now he finds himself right at the sharp end on pure qualifying pace. No sort of gifting of a reverse grid pole or anything like that. He's in with a very good shout of taking fastest off the front podium and maybe even a win, and to put Dave Marshall under pressure. So this is going to be fascinating to see as the lighting sequence starts here. 6 lights are on at KNOCKHILL Racing Circuit. And the first of 4 races is underway. Callum Newsham in red and white on the outside line. Dave Marshall in blue to the inside as they head down Dufferston for the first time. Jack Mack goes on the inside line to take second position, or try to take second away from Callum Newsham. Callum leaving a little bit of a gap there. This is fair racing between the pair of them as they go through Scotsman Corner, and it's Dave Marshall who leads away, gets through the chicane first. Callum Newsham is in second place. We've got Matt Richards back in fourth at the moment. Somebody spearing up there. Was that Max?
I think it was Max Coates.
Yeah, I think it was. And so Max with a little bit of work to do as along Railway Straight for the first time. It's Dave Marshall from Callum Newsham. Now this is a pattern we have seen with Marshall starting to get away, and then a bun fight behind means that these drivers, the lead driver of the bun fight behind, has to start getting defensive, which allows the race leader to move through. I think we've got somebody coming in for a drive-through penalty for a jump start.
I think it's Matt Richards.
Matt Richards, yeah, good call. Well said, Josh. So disappointment for Matt Richards after a strong qualifying in third, and that would have been a jump start. He's done his drive-through, back on track. He's got some work to do chasing Ian economy.
Yeah, I think, and just looking at the way the race is starting to form already, I think Jack Mack is going to be thinking, I've got to get past Callum, or we've got to work together to bridge that gap towards Dave. Jack's going to be thinking championship here. He wants to get in front of Dave. He wants to put the pressure on him. So he wants to either get past Callum, or he wants to make sure that they work together to get back towards him.
Not close enough to Callum Newsham at the moment, is he? Callum looking pretty good in that Norscott car. It'd be good for the Newsham clan for him to take a podium, if not a race win here, as they go through the hairpin, the long climb up towards the start-finish line here, and across the line they go. Who is going to set the best lap of the race so far? It's Ryan Elliott, fastest man. Remember, 6 points available for fastest lap. Max Bird having a good run there, chasing Ryan Elliott. Max is in 7th place. Senna Proctor up to 8th from 10th on the grid. So a little bit of progress, obviously aided by that drive-through for Matt Richards, who's currently in 15th, down behind Tom O'Farrell. Simon Reed ahead of Tom. And then Damien Hall running well in 12th place here. The Bajan racer might well be in with a shout of a top 10 to mirror his best. Funnily enough, that's interview we did with him was the one of the most popular we've had YouTube. So he's got quite a few followers as Damien Hall, which is good to see. But it's still Dave Marshall up front, second to the good over Callum Newsham, with Jack Mack still in 3rd. Tovin Lee is 4th, and Jordan Brennan 5th. So Jordan Brennan has gone up from 6th place to 5th. That would have been courtesy of the Matt Richards drive-through, but nonetheless Jordan putting in a good strong performance at the moment. And what was interesting for me talking to Jordan in the week was to realise how little experience he's got of sim racing, but acquitting himself very well, as most of these drivers are.
Yeah, exactly. I've been really impressed. I mean, the first couple of laps were actually looked almost accident-free, but it's just I've just seen the orange car there of just in front of Max. I can't quite see who it is. Number 19, Tom Williams. He's just been punted off at the last corner. I think, you know, it was the old case of 4 cars into 1 doesn't go, and he got spun off on the pit straight. But yeah, the first couple of laps were really neat and tidy, and I think everyone's now starting to jostle for position a little bit.
Watching Max coming out of Clark Curve into the tri-oval section here. He used to run a bit of stock car racing on the tri-oval, which is as close to a quarter-mile oval as you can get. Actually, 2 other stock car circuits within 15 miles of this place, so it's a little bit of a hotbed for oval racing if they were running the stock cars here. I think they stopped doing it because of damage to the main tarmac, but if they can get over that, it'd be a good place to have short oval racing returning. As you heard Dave Marshall talking about, there is a rallycross track here as well at Knockhill, which he was familiar with, and showing good familiarity with the real race tarmac here, with a lead of 1.2 seconds at the moment over Callum Newsham, who has got Jack MacIntyre snapping at his heels once again in that 3rd place. So all to play for there. Damien Hall up to 11th now, and dicing with Rob Butler, who was on pole last time out. So this just shows you how competitive this is. As we look back, there is Hall with Matt Richards behind him, so Richards started to put in a little bit of progress as well. Richards still running pretty strongly in the championship, is 11th overall. That's despite having missed the Silverstone International round after having internet problems and connectivity problems that weekend. But here's Jack Mack, and Josh will give us the driver's eye view to where we can maybe pass or put under pressure.
So I think Jack's now going to be thinking, oh, he's just run a little bit wide there, he's going to lose some time, but he's now on the defensive line because he's lost time from running onto the gravel. But he would have been thinking, right, I want a good exit onto this little straight here, or even he's going to try and set himself up for the hairpin, but he's now thinking, defend, defend, defend. I don't know how close the car is behind him. We'll see if he goes for the inside line to defend. He obviously doesn't think he's close enough. So he's now going to be thinking, right, I need to get back to Callum, I need to get back into my rhythm. He's just going to be thinking clean, clean, clean now, really clean laps, really precise, and get back into his groove.
Max Bird's got the fastest lap of the race now, so well done, Max. That'll be a good fillet for the Bluebird Developments driver. Running well, was our featured interviewee last weekend, so good to see Max Bird there, and he is in 8th position at the moment, as we still finding this entertaining battle with Matt Richards and Damien Hall for 11th position. Rob Butler up ahead of them in 10th at the moment. Josh Martin in 9th. Senna Proctor is up to 7th, so Senna Proctor making good progress here. Really getting himself bedded in his Sen. So he's probably more than 6 foot now. In the Ginetta Junior days we called him 6 foot Senna, but he's probably 7 foot Senna now, because he's racing in touring cars as well, racing Accelerate for this year.
He is, yeah. We were out testing a few months ago with the Hyundais there. It was just interesting to see Senna's seating position. He's almost in the back seat, he's so tall, but yeah, very interesting to see how he does it. And I'm amazed he almost has the A-pillar obscuring his view, so obviously extremely talented driver to be able to see through that A-pillar.
Yeah, he's a tall lad, and is, as you say, a talented driver. The year that Jamie Caroline was the Ginetta Junior champion, he actually tied on points with Senna Proctor. I think Jamie, there was a little bit of a judicial after one of the races to do with, I can't remember if it's jump start or what, but anyway, they tied on points. Jamie Caroline won the championship on race wins, but Senna Proctor was equal with Jamie Caroline on points that year, just to remind everybody. So I always make that point, and yeah, I don't want to take the championship away from Jamie, but Sen was equal with him on points, so just wanted to show how close those two were in what was a nail-biting year. And I don't think we got the decision till it was dark at Brands Hatch GP that year. We were all standing around waiting for the clock to tell us what was going on. Anyway, meanwhile, back with the action today. Toby Lee in 4th place there in the pink machine is having a good go and putting pressure here on Jack MacIntyre. This is great news for Callum Newsham, because it means that Jack Mac is effectively being put under that little bit of pressure. Jordan Brennan in 5th place, a little bit of a gap back to Jordan Brennan from Tobin Lee. As Dave Marshall continues to come through, Keir McConomy has now got the fastest lap. Well done, Keir. So potential 6 points, of course, up for grabs for fastest lap. And with Dave Marshall leading this one and Jack Mac back in 3rd, it's another 10 points to add to the championship leaders. Ryan Elliott takes a wide line into the hairpin there. A little bit of a lock up from Matt Richards looking down the inside line, recovering well up into 10th now and challenging Josh Martin for 9th position. Jordan Brennan heading the train up across the line and down into Duffer's Dip, coming under pressure from Ryan Elliott, who did hold the fastest lap. Fastest lap now is with Tom O'Farrell. So again, like qualifying, we're seeing different drivers popping in fastest laps and claiming that extra 6 points, which is, if the extra 6 points goes a little bit further down, it's going to make my championship calculations a little bit awry, but we'll do our best to keep up to date over the course of this one. As we approach half distance, this is probably one of the most physical short laps that you can get on our schedule though, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's nowhere to have a break. I mean, the straights aren't straight, they're not flat. The car's always moving about, even on the start-finish straight, the thing's, moving about slightly. So nowhere to have a break. You've got to stay so focused all the time. And it's interesting to see the drivers that are putting in the quicker laps are the ones with a little bit of space in front of them, that aren't getting held up by traffic, that aren't, watching someone else waiting for their mistake. They're the ones that can get in the groove. They're the ones that can start to pump the laps in. We've had Danielle on Facebook giving us a weather update from Knockhill. Would you like to hazard a guess as to what the weather's doing?
Is it dry and sunny?
No, it's not. It's apparently pouring with rain.
Oh dear.
So thank you, Danielle, for that.
And Danielle, if you are listening, tell us what you're up to. Is it Danielle from the circuit staff, or are you there for a test day, or whatever? Be interested to know what's happening there today. I'm sure that Duncan Vincent, Black Lightning, might tell us what's going on, but it'd be fascinating to know what's on there. But whatever it is, switch off what's up on track and continue to watch us here on the official mini challenge eSeries with Virtual Reality Racing Club. Across the line goes Dave Marshall again. Callum Newsham in P2. Potentially a best result here in the offing for Callum Newsham in 2nd position. Jack MacIntyre still just half a second down behind him, as we've got Tom Williams coming through and passing Theo Bridgeman. That was for 17th place. Max Coates immediately ahead of them. So had a few surprises here. Kim McConomy goes through 15th place, then Max Coates. So Max has got work to do to try and close down on Keir. Coates is going to be looking now as we get into the second half of the race. Obviously our attention doesn't turn completely, but we start to think about who's going to get pole for the second race. And at the moment it's Josh Martin, and that could be key for Josh because he's in 10th. Main championship rivals for the real world races, Isaac Smith, Kim McConomy taking a moment on the grass there. Isaac Smith and Max Coates. If things stay the way they are, Josh Martin effectively gets a 10 place jump in terms of points for race 2, and that's going to help him out big time because the overall win is 50 points, 10th position 25, so he can claw back 25 points of the 65 point advantage that Max Coates had coming into the round. As it stands, he's on 25 and Coates in this one on 20, so he's nibbling away at that gap. And that's going to worry Max as we look towards the remaining 3 races here and also the 4 races on Brands Hatch GP.
Exactly, yeah. Max is a switched-on driver as well. He'll be looking at the leaderboard while he's getting around the lap. He'll see that Josh is sat in 10th place and he's now going to be thinking, right, I've got to get my head down. I've got to ensure that I am as close to the front as possible for the remaining 3 races.
The Newsham Nutters are going to be screaming at their screens here because Jack MacIntyre gets very close, as they do, under braking going into the hairpin. Now the mammoth climb up across the start-finish line here, and this is where Newsham starts to get that little bit of a gap. Now coming down into Duffers Dip. See the escape road that we've got there on the right-hand side as you look at the screen, through Leslie's, down through Scotsman, or MacIntyre's to give it its non-commercial name, then Butchers, and up into the chicane. Already we've got Toby Lee and company going through. Jordan Brennan still in 5th, 2.8 seconds down at the moment on Toby Lee. Lee 1.2 seconds down on Jack MacIntyre. But Dave Marshall still out front. Looking at my timing screen, I've got Isaac Smith now as the quickest driver in the 1-2-3 car, 54.146. So again, that's an extra 6 points potentially in the bag for Isaac Smith, which will close him up on Josh Martin. Smith running in 13th place, and he's got some tough competition up amongst him there, with Rob Butler ahead, and also Damien Hall having a very good strong run here. And Josh, I need to ask for your input as well over the course of our 4 races, if you can pick a driver of the race for each one, and you might have some thoughts on that already for this one, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Callum's defending extremely well here. He's just putting the car in the right place all the time. He's soaking up all the pressure, showing off his experience in his class. Really, he's doing extremely well. Dave could be driver of the race every race, really. But yeah, Jack Mack again, he's putting him under pressure all the time. He's doing extremely well. Max Coates is recovering very well from what happened on his first lap when he got speared across the grass. But I think we'll maybe be able to decide in 5 or so minutes time when everything's sorted and the results are finalised.
Nice one, thanks mate. Keep it in mind anyway, and maybe have a think about it when we're doing the podium interviews. Damien Hall is there as well. He's having a good meeting, 11th place at the moment, and ahead of Rob Butler. And you've got to consider that the drivers Damien Hall is beating here, including Isaac Smith, who is third in the Real World Drivers' Championship. Damien's doing a super job at the minute, so we'll keep our eyes and see whether he can mirror his best of 10th position as Dave Marshall continues to try and build the lead over Callum Newsham. Toby Lee we're looking at here, the trio of cars dicing it out for 3rd place. Lee, 4th position, I beg your pardon. Lee, Brennan and Ryan Elliott in 6th position. Josh Martin is still in 10th position at the moment. Matt Richards in 9th, so that drive-through might equate to a 9th position, a potential front row start for race 2 of the day. But at the moment, Dave Marshall will be happy just to keep eking the lead out. As I'm kind of hoping that all of the championship titles go to Brands Hatch. I know Dave would love to get it wrapped up around early, but for our viewers, it would be super to have a showdown on Brands Hatch GP and have our champion crowned at the last event. I know, and that's me really speaking as probably an enthusiast, but also as a TV producer as well. You don't really want things sewn up before the last round if you can help it. But Dave Marshall's lead, incredible, isn't it? Really, 172 points, 178 now with 6 points from qualifying. And he's just chipped away, worked so hard. He's been practicing during the weeks to, get up to speed with the circuits. Done absolutely superb job as we watch Senna Proctor there in the 18 car having a good run as well. So Senna's debut, 7th position, qualified 10th, so it's made good progress. Through goes Jordan Brennan, and Senna Proctor down behind Ryan Elliott at the moment. So Elliott coming under pressure from the Green Car Championship driver. And I've got to say as well, for a BTCC man, he's actually putting his reputation on the line, isn't he, coming into this?
He is, absolutely. This is the opportunity for some of the mini drivers to say, well, yeah, look, I beat Senna, but Senna's, he backs himself, and rightly so. He's doing very well, and I know he hasn't had a sim for particularly long, so it just shows his raw pace and ability. The fact that he can get back into a car and be quick. But we've just noticed that Callum's just lost his place to Jack Mack. I'm not sure where that happened or how that happened, but
outside move we're hearing from our pictures director Mike, so thanks for that. So it's Marshall from MacIntyre. Callum Newsham still a strong 3rd place, and it might give Callum some impetus here. Now he's got the pressure off him to come back in as we watch Senna Proctor. Just thinking that Senna's sim must be one of the longest in the business.
Yes, I imagine
it's
so.
rigged. So Sen's still busy chasing Ryan Elliott. Ryan, of course, a double race winner at Snetterton a couple of weeks ago, and then a couple of weeks prior to that on the national circuit at Silverstone. Sadly, lost his 100% record of podium finishes last time out, as we watched Max Coates still trying to get back into the swing of things, into the last quarter of this first race of the weekend here at Knockhill. Max Coates 13. He's got a fair amount of work to do to try and close in on Damien Hall, who has lost out to Rob Butler now. So Rob Butler's gone up into 11th place, but is 2 seconds down on Isaac Smith. So Isaac Smith could be about to maybe repeat what he did at Silverstone International, which is he'd grab a pole and then head for a win in the reverse grid race. He did it in reverse grid race 2 at Silverstone International. So we'll see whether that will stay as things are. But Josh Martin and Isaac Smith, podium title chasers at the moment in the real world class. Max Bird's still there in 8th. Talking of Bird, fastest lap, Senna Proctor. Proctor's got the fastest lap. We said about him putting his reputation on the line, and he's not disappointing anybody here. This is a great performance from Senna Proctor. 6th position at the moment, up from 10th on the grid, and fastest lap.
Absolutely, really impressive. I'm just watching the stream there, seeing someone lock up. It was interesting listening to the drivers during the week, talking about how a lot of them were struggling with locking brakes, with the undulations and the way the car is loaded through all the different corners. How the wheels and the brakes are starting to lock at different corners, and how all the drivers were starting to fiddle around with their brake biases, their brake powers, to adjust for that and to compensate for that. So it's really interesting to see how the drivers have been playing with that and adjusting with it, and using their engineering side of their brain to kind of think how they can find lap time rather than just driving the car.
It's fascinating to hear about, isn't it? And Proctor having a good battle with Ryan Elliott. They nip past a little bit of traffic, and Procky having a look now to see if he can put the MSL car alongside here on the outside line, and he might be able to go for the cutback. I'll tell you what, that is covered by Ryan Elliott there, and Procky being made to work the outside line. MSL, of course, one of our key marketing partners for this championship. A big thank you to them, and real professional outlook, as you would expect from them. With Alex Toth-Jones unable to race, they get a replacement driver coming in, a super sub, Senna Proctor, which is absolutely spot on. And Senna all over the back there, a little tap on the back end, I think, but backed out of it. It wasn't too nasty, that one. That was just a little bit of close quarter contact. And again, that I thought good driving from Senna. What's the perspective there, Josh? He got close, but not too close.
Yeah, a little touring car nudge, just nothing in that. That's just letting Ryan know that he's there. Didn't put Ryan offline. Senna backed off a little bit just to, show the stewards that it, nothing intentional, but just to let Ryan know he's there. We don't have headlights in the Mini, so perhaps that's what he's trying to do. A little almost virtual flash of the headlights.
This is actually taking me back to commentating on the Celtic Speed Scottish Mini Cooper Cup over the years. They used the earlier model of the cars, which race elsewhere in the Mini family or Mini ladder. But we've seen some great dices here at Knockhill. This circuit could almost have been designed for Mini racing. We've seen some superb races over the year with the likes of, I name-checked a few of them actually earlier on in the season. David Slay, Tim Slay, Vic Covey Jr. was Scottish champion as well. Trying to think who else came out. Hannah Chapman, of course, who's racing in the Mini Challenge at the moment, came through. That was ladies champion as well, and just so many really good drivers coming through.
Kyle Reid,
yeah, absolutely right. You're one of the latter day.
Sunoco 240 Challenge, he won in the Mini Coopers a couple of years ago.
Yeah, absolutely right. And some real good peddlers who have made the move now. And I tell you what, Procky gets his nose in front there. He keeps working hard. We're on the last lap of this one with Dave Marshall out front. Procky and Ryan Elliott working hard and fighting hard over 6th position. And I think it's going to be Dave Marshall to take the win. Proctor has got the job done now, hasn't he, ahead of Ryan Elliott. So Proctor up to 6th place as the race leader, Dave Marshall, comes out of Clark Curve and down the railway straight for the last time, with Jack MacIntyre in 2nd position. So it's going to be win number 13, not unlucky for some, for Dave Marshall in this one, barring any problems at the hairpin for the last time, as the MSL car of Senna Proctor continues on its way, still engaging in battle hard. Ryan Elliott on the inside line, checkered flag meanwhile, and it's Dave Marshall that takes the win. Jack MacIntyre second, Callum Newsham in third place. So another podium for Callum. He'll be a little bit disappointed to have lost a wee bit of ground over the course of that one, but he'll be happy with another podium for sure. And fourth position goes to Tobin Lee, fifth position to Jordan Brennan, Jordan followed by Ryan Elliott, and then Senna Proctor in sixth. Oh no, Ryan Elliott got ahead of Senna Proctor at the flag there, so Ryan Elliott sixth, Senna in seventh, Max Bird in eighth place. Having a look to see whether Max maintained who got fastest lap, whether it was Isaac Smith. That graphic, as the pink has disappeared there, so we'll have to come back to who got fastest lap. So going back to my top 10 recount, it was Max Bird in 8th place, Josh Martin in 9th, and Isaac Smith in 10th, who will take the pole position for race 2. So don't forget, Josh, you need to think about who was driver of the race there. Just have a quick look up and see where Damien Hall finished in 12th place, so a couple of places shy of his best. But fascinating race as the cars come down into our virtual Parc Ferme, and we're going to do things, I think, 3, 2, 1 again, which means that we're going to start with Callum Newsham in third place. So Callum, are you there? Callum Newsham, can you hear us? Don't forget to push the button to speak.
Hello.
Hi, Callum.
Hi.
Another podium. Congratulations on the podium, and also, you know, good performance thus far this weekend. You were topping the timing sheets in qualifying, right to last knockings, when Dave Marshall just pipped you to it, and a strong second place for most of the race. Tell us about the pressure that you soaked up.
Yeah. I was trying to keep MacIntyre behind me, but you know, I hit the gravel and it just got the inside of me. So I thought I'll just settle for third. So yeah.
Another podium's good for you, and you know you've got the pace around here.
Yeah, it's good.
How much coaching did Dad do around here? Because he must have done quite a few laps at KNOCKHILL over the years.
He's not really giving me any tips that much, but he has, I suppose. But it doesn't really matter in the real world, if you know, in the virtual world, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. You've got to do it all again in the reverse grid. And chatting to many of the drivers, saying very difficult to pass around here.
Yeah, it's going to be hard, I think. Starting from, I don't know where I'm going to be starting from, but yeah, it's going to be hard.
You'll be P8 on the grid, I think, for the next one. So anyway, well done. Good to see you on the podium. Second podium, and you know, 2 podiums, another win later on, or a win later on in the meeting, or maybe a Brands Hatch GP would be good to see. But certainly from where we're looking, the momentum is there for you.
Yeah, it is. I'm definitely getting better and better.
Nice one. Well done, mate. We'll catch you for race 2. Callum Newsham there, finishing in third position in our first race of the day here at KNOCKHILL. Let's go to the driver who took second position, the virtual reality racing club livery adorning the side of the 37 car. Jack Mack, second position. Hard race. Callum was difficult to get by.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think if he didn't touch the gravel and it gave me a bit of overspeed, I don't think I would have been able to get past him. So yeah, good race driven by everyone. Good race as always by Dave. I was slowly reeling him in at the end, but not enough laps left to get there.
It's the nature of KNOCKHILL, isn't it? Saying that, you know, sometimes you rely on just a little mistake from somebody or a little bit of fortune coming up, but you've got to keep banging the laps in yourself. So, you know, it's very modest of you to say that, you know, the only reason you got through was a mistake, but you've got to keep your speed up yourself.
Yeah, it's a real tricky track to not make any mistakes. Like you say, you go 6 inches too much onto a curb and then you're out wide and you're on the gravel and all of a sudden you've lost half a second. So it's a real tough track to drive. Really fun track, but yeah, it takes no prisoners.
Going back to qualifying, I mean, you were ahead of Dave Marshall for much of that, and then he bangs one in last knockings. You must have thought you had a few points safe on him potentially in the race.
Yeah, well, I had a couple of laps in quali that would have been good enough for pole, but the marshals have been quite strict with the chicane cuts, and I think I was really borderline with them, so I cancelled them both just to stay on the safe side of the penalties. But kind of wish I didn't. Now I saw Dave. You know, I saw him in fourth behind me, and I thought I had a bit of a safety net to not put those laps in. But yeah, that's how it goes. Hopefully do a bit better in Q2.
Okay, Jack, that's a nice insight. Thanks for that. Best of luck for race 2 and qualifying 2. We'll catch up with you later on in the day.
Thank you.
Jack MacIntrye in second position, and our race winner, 13th win of the series for championship leader Dave Marshall. Dave, congratulations. That was a textbook race again, wasn't it, for you? Get out front and not really troubled.
Yeah, did the hard job in quali, really.
Yep.
And to be fair, I've seen Callum practicing this week. Callum and Brennan have both been on, I don't know where they've got pace from, but they are flying at Knockhill. And well, you can't expect anything else from Jack, can you? He's rapid, so yeah, it was keep out in front, and he was catching us towards the end. But I was just focusing on, try not to make a mistake, as he said, touch the gravel once, and there's 2 to 3 tenths lost in a lap. So just kept it clean, tried not to push any faster, and luckily it was enough to hold on to the end.
I don't think there's any luck about it. It was some Dave Marshall skill, which was great to see there. Well done, Dave. And you've eked the points out a little bit once again. So just bagging those points and getting closer to that drive, which must be a mouth-watering prospect for you.
Yeah, I mean it's the chance of a lifetime. I've been chasing it for about 4 years now, properly, to try and get a drive. And you know what it's like in the industry. Unless if you come from a good financial background, it's incredibly hard to get a seat. So I've tried through many scholarships and got really, really far in them, down to the top 3, and unfortunately it just comes down to the last few people had full racing licenses and had done seasoning cars, and there was me who'd only done 40 laps on a track. So really happy to got as far as I've gotten so far, but hopefully this is the kickstart into my career.
That'd be fantastic. Well done first of all on the winning race number 1. Good luck for race 2. We'll catch you on the podium a little bit later on in the meeting. Dave Marshall, our race winner, well done.
Cheers, thanks Richard.
So there we have it, and Dave Marshall, Jack MacIntrye second, Callum Newsham in third, and we'll have a look with Josh, who's been, I think, thinking about who was driving the race there.
I think for me, it's probably got to be Dave. I think he just drove a really superb race. You don't get a better race than that from lights to flag. That is every racer's dream, isn't it? So, and I think to just command the pace, he had more pace in his pocket when he needed it. It was consistent, it was exact. I think that is just the ideal race, and I think it would be unfair to give it to anyone else. Lots of other people drove amazing races, but I think Dave was really the standout there.
Thank you for that. Respect that. It's absolutely spot on. And do you know what? There's a tendency, particularly as far as I'm concerned, to look elsewhere, because actually I think when the winner of the race and the championship leader wins a race, there's a temptation when there is a driver in the race to look elsewhere. So I think that just underlines just how well he did. So, and that's why you're here. That's why we've got your driver's perspective. So a good call. So as our first driver of the day, courtesy of Josh Stanton, I agree with that. The 66 car of Dave Marshall takes a incredible 13th win of the championship. Is he going to make it win number 14 before the end of the day? He'd be a fool to bet against him for sure. As we have this wonderful view. If you've not been to Knockhill, I do heartily recommend it. And we have made a few jokes about the weather and everything else, but you do get some good sunny days, and it's just such a wonderful place, even without racing, to come and see. The scenery is spectacular. But if there's racing on, so much the better. And racing can be top level stuff like British touring cars, or as I've mentioned, the various Scottish championships that take place as well. And I mentioned Scottish Minis. They have a regular fair. We've got the Citroens have been running since I last commentated on it as well, which is a good entry level formula. But you have a Scottish Formula Ford 1600 championship racing, Scottish Sports and Saloons with all manner of cars, a multi-class championship, which is fascinating to watch. And then a classic version of that as well, where you'll see Morgans, TR7s, of course Minis racing in that XR2s as well, Scottish XR2 Championship, mainstay of racing up here north of the border for many seasons as well. But there's not one championship which doesn't deliver entertainment on the domestic Scottish racing, and they generally run, when we're COVID free, once a month, at least once a month during the main season. I do heartily recommend, if you've got a weekend spare, to come up and enjoy some great hospitality and some superb motor racing. I doubt if anyone from Knockhill's listening, but there you go, free commercial for them.
Absolutely, and it's really interesting to see some of the Scottish Championships will do a reverse layout of Knockhill as well. So instead of going down Duffers Dip, you come back up it. It's really interesting to see how the dynamics of the track change from a driver's point of view when you're going the other way. Really, really interesting to see.
I don't think there are as many overtaking opportunities going around anti-clock. I've called a couple of meetings going anti-clockwise, and I haven't quite found them as entertaining as the normal way. And I don't know if that's because I haven't got my head around it, but generally I don't think there are as many overtaking opportunities.
I don't think so, but what is interesting is I know a couple of drivers that like to do their track walk back. They'll do a track walk forwards and then they'll do it backwards again, just to kind of see their way through a corner, look for their exits, things like that. And I was chatting to a Scottish driver the other day, and they were saying how once they did the Knockhill layout backwards, they found a lot of time going forwards because of the way that they could see their way through the corner and kind of match up what was an entry point to then an exit point. That kind of way they could kind of, use that line through a corner. So it was interesting to see how doing it backwards found actually a little bit of time doing it forwards.
Good coaching tip. That's a good idea. So race 2, the reverse grid pole position, the top 10 reversed, as you'll be familiar with. It means that Isaac Smith will start on the front row of the grid from Josh Martin, two of the leading drivers in the real world category. So it's going to be a fascinating battle between those two, and they are battling for second and third places at the moment, and indeed trying to close down on Max Coates. And as I said earlier on, the fact that Max was outside the top 10 means that those guys get sort of leapfrogged an extra, or get handed potentially an extra 8 places in terms of points before we go back to qualifying again. So a big opportunity for those guys to close down. During the lunch break, I'll try and work out how they've closed it down. The gap now between Jack Mack and Dave Marshall has gone out to 184 points, and remember 224 points gap is needed by the end of the day for Dave Marshall to wrap the championship. So at the moment it doesn't look like that's going to happen, but as I say, we don't know exactly what's going to happen in race 2. So and also I need to say my points of course are entirely provisional. My maths was never that great. I've been helping my son actually this week with his mock GCSE maths paper, and that just underlined that I know nothing about mathematics.
Just an update on what happened to Matt Richards during that race. He's put on YouTube that he was running 10th, ready for a pole position in race 2, and then his game screen just stopped.
No!
So really bad luck for Matt there, but hopefully he's got all of his tech sorted, and hopefully we'll be on for a good result in race 2.
Yeah, that's bad luck, isn't it, for Matt Richards? So wasn't in the top 10. Row 2, behind Josh Martin and Isaac Smith, will be Max Bird, who will be in with a good shout here. Let's hope that Max can get a decent result here. Max hasn't had a podium yet, but was 4th in race 3 at Snetterton, which I think, Josh, that was your ground with us, wasn't it, Snet?
It was, yeah. Max drove tremendously well at Snet, and actually I think got really unlucky. And I think he definitely deserves a podium here. So let's see if he can make it stick this weekend.
I hope he can. I'd love to see him up on the podium. And he was our interviewee last weekend. And again, a driver with very little in terms of sim experience, and he'll be out with you guys in the week. Sadly, other work means I can't go. I was hoping to nip along to see the tyre test at Snet, but I can't make it up, which is a little bit of disappointment, because it's nice to just sort of clock who's there and get relationships going again. But
it'll be good to be back out in the car. I think so many drivers are so excited to put the overalls back on, get the helmet on, get back in the zone, and get back out in the car, get racing again. Myself included. I really can't wait. It's going to be interesting to see. I know Snetterton is one of the slightly stricter circuits in terms of social distancing and COVID rules, etc. So
it's a farmer track, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Dr. Farmer being included.
So, and they've put some guidelines out for us. I think it's a driver plus 2 or 3 team personnel. So it'll be interesting to see how perhaps some of the bigger teams that run more personnel are going to get their way around, are going to work their way around that. Perhaps mechanics will be doubling up or taking on more positions of responsibility, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how the championship as a whole can adapt to the new normal, really.
Yeah. when we were chatting earlier on in the e-racing season with Anthony Williams, and we were saying that the MSV, obviously, Jonathan Parr, I don't know if you know this, but Jonathan's background was he's actually a qualified doctor.
Oh, really?
Jonathan Parr, yeah, he qualified, and again, people that were with us from round one will get fed up with me saying it. It's only the second time I've said it in the series, but when I used to go and watch racing as a spectator at Brands Hatch back in the day, Jonathan was going through his training, and actually remember I was actually standing at Clark Curve when Brian Jones, the Brands Hatch commentator, announced that Jonathan had passed his doctor's exams and was a fully qualified doctor, and that's why MSV have always had the highest standards. You know, if you go in, because we had an episode before, there was a threat of one flu or another, and Jonathan was the first person in all of his tracks to put extra hand sanitizer in, you know, over and above what was needed. And he's always been keen on that. The cleanliness of the catering outlets has always been superb, and the cleanliness generally of the MSV circuits is great. And he takes keen interest and, you know, watches what goes on, and you know that's why. And you say that they're Snetter's is one of the more strict circuits, and that'll be the reason why. And it, you know, it gives you confidence to go there, knowing that, you know, Jonathan takes the medical side of things extremely seriously.
Well, absolutely, yeah. It's really impressive, and it's nice that also some of the other MSV circuits are going to start to allow spectators through, which is great for us as drivers to be able to, you know, with our partnerships with our sponsors, whatever. But also for the fans, spectators to be able to come along as well. I'm not sure how many will be allowed, but it'll be great to have people there. As far as I'm aware, it's Donington and Brands Hatch at the moment.
Just getting an update from race producer. So we've had a few issues. So what we're going to do, race 2 for the moment is in abeyance. So we're going to go, we've had a server reboot, we're going to go into qualifying 2. And so that will get underway very shortly. So we've got a change of featured drivers here. Josh Martin, who was going to be on pole, we'll let you know what's happening with race 2 when we're able to sort that out. But at the moment we're going into the second half of the meeting, as it were, just to keep things flowing. So apologies, but you're still having racing action, that's the key thing. And we'll update you on the situation as we go along.
So this will now be interesting from a driver's point of view. How you're now going to have to change your mindset. You're ready for you're in the groove. You're ready for the race. You're thinking of things that you did in race 1 that you want to improve in race 2. You're perhaps thinking where you want your line for the start. How you're going to shape up your overtakes. But now all of a sudden you're being told you're going into qualifying. You've got to, you know, strap on your new set of tyres, and you've got to go for it. You've got to find your fastest lap. So it's a change in mindset, but all the drivers will be prepared and they'll be ready to go.
Change of mindset for us in the commentary box as well. Our mind is going through, okay, what's changed in ITV land? Obviously, I guess most people will know that I do the BTCC Support Championships for ITV. We're spoiled really, because you have so many people looking after you. You have we've got Mike Lau, who does our direction in terms of changing camera angles and all this here for us on the Mini Challenge UK series, and he's doing a superb job. He's fine. He's also effectively doubling up as the presentation director and producer. He's wearing so many hats, as Mike, but he's sort of telling us what's going on, and in many ways is liaising with race control as well. So he's doing a lot. But in ITV, we're spoiled because we have a sound man looking after us normally, who's in the commentary box with us. And during a race, you're listening to the presentation director, sometimes the race director and assistant director as well. So you're potentially having 3 or 4 conversations going through your head. You're also getting, when you're at the end of the season, you've got people telling you what the championship positions are, or the championship points are. Even though we do them ourselves, you get that sort of backup. But when you're a circuit commentator, things are slightly different. Sometimes you get the championship coordinators that know what's going on. But anyway, what I'm getting back to saying was, I'm just literally going through and thinking, okay, how is that going to impact on what we're telling you? And the answer is actually doesn't impact very much unless the second race comes in. Will there be an extra race on Brands Hatch GP to make up for it? It's one of the things we do in the real world, of course. If a race is rained off or force majeure means we can't run a race at any particular meeting, we sometimes carry one forward. So that might be an option for the championship organisers to carry a race forward if we can't get the reboot sorted out to run race 2 today. I don't know whether they could run it on the KNOCKHILL configuration next week. Anyway, we'll come back to that, but qualifying 2 is where we're at. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule, and the car's on track ready for their second qualifying and taking part in that. And as Josh said, they've got to get their heads back into qualifying mode rather than race mode.
Exactly, yeah. And what really does interest me is how the qualifying times change from qualifying 1 to qualifying 2. You know, whether the drivers manage to find more time, whether they start to overdrive the car in that search of more time, and then times could potentially start to drop off. So it's interesting to see whether the drivers do start to overdrive and overpush and hence scrub speed, or whether they still have a little bit more in their pocket and they've been learning from race 1 and you know what would have been race 2 to see if they can find a bit more time.
I've just thought of a really good question actually for Mike and Rich Hayden in race control, as it were, and they probably won't appreciate this question, but it's, well, what time would the lunch break be now? Or have we lost our lunch break? Because the marshals need a lunch break. Not that we've got any marshals here, but are we going to have a 15-minute lunch break to watch the interview that we put together? And we will do. So we'll keep you posted on when that is, whether we're going to go straight from Q2 into race 2 or take a break and then come back to race 2. We'll let you know as we go on. But we've still got 15 or 16 minutes of qualifying underway. And Ryan Elliott, the man topping the charts at the moment, which is good, with Jordan Brennan in second, Tobin Lee third. I've seen a lot of Tobin this weekend so far. Callum Newsham is fourth with Jack Mack, then Senna Proctor. That changes because Max Coates goes up into P5 as the times start to settle themselves down. Let's have a look. Where's Mr. Marshall on the list? Has he not been out yet? Dave Marshall is 21st at the moment, so that won't trouble him too much. He'll just go in and bang a quick lap in, won't he, Josh?
I imagine so. I think, you know, Dave he'll be sat there, he'll be thinking, right, when are the drivers, perhaps drivers will go out for their first few laps, then they'll come in, maybe do a setup change or something. Dave will be thinking, right, while they come in and do their setup change, maybe I can get out, I can find a bit of clear time, bit of track space, get into my rhythm and pump a few quick laps in.
He will. He's certainly got time to do that. Might be looking for some clear track. Elliott, Brennan, Lee and Newsham at the moment are the top 4. Max Coates will be happier with 5th position from Jack MacIntyre. One of the things, and I don't know whether this is the case, but Max, as you heard in the interview with him after qualifying 1, is so busy at the moment. He's been busy enough over the weeks where he hasn't been active on circuit doing coaching, but he's been busy enough sort of running around sorting things out for this championship and doing his other promotional activities that he does. And I don't think he's had as much practice time in cars, but one thing you see about Max is as the meetings go on, he gets into a little bit of a groove, he gets the rhythm of the meeting or the event going, and having just come out of a race to go into qualifying, I think that's why he's up in fit, that adrenaline flowing, and he's got the flow of the circuit in his veins here.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be starting to get into his groove. I think he'll be slightly frustrated as well at what happened in the first race. He'll be slightly annoyed. You know, whether he was taken out or whether it was a mistake of his own, I don't know. But he'll be frustrated, and he'll be wanting to make up for that. He'll be wanting to make sure he can get in a good position for Q2, get out of the kind of midfield melee, if you like, and then hopefully get a good result from there.
Fingers crossed for him. Goes P2, which is a good result. Quick update on the timetable for you. We are going to go from qualifying into race 1, and then we're going to take a break at 2 o'clock. We'll be able to update you after that, of course, with missing race, whether that be voided or whether we will run it at the end of the meeting, or perhaps run it next weekend. Or maybe we can get everybody together midweek and do something. I don't know. There's all sorts of options that are available there. But Coatesy having a good run. Jack Mack is now quickest. Jack MacIntyre 53.64. Ryan Elliott 500ths down at the moment in second place with Max Coates. Jordan Brennan again proving to be quick here. And you'll see from the interview with Jordan, another driver like Dave Marshall looking to, at some point, break into the... You saw Tobin Lee just having a little moment on the grass there. Jordan Brennan hoping to try and break into real world racing. Hasn't got the budget to go into minis, but you know, he would love to get the chance if possible, as many of these drivers would be. And of course they can look at other things on the ladder, so you could look at the entry level classes for mini challenge. I know, talking to Jordan, there he is in the liquid moly car, was thinking that that Legends cars might be a good starting point as well, which is where Dave Newsham, his driver that he's been following, started off. So there are plenty of other options for starting in motor racing that you can have a go. And Legends start next weekend at Croft, as I mentioned. They got a good entry as well. They got 23 cars. So, you know, you sort of hear in motor racing that, you know, money is scarce, but they've got a 23 car grid in the Legends cars next weekend for Croft. So I think people are getting itchy feet and keen to get back out there.
Yeah, there seems to be, you know, a lot of resilience amongst the industry. You know, that we want to keep our, you know, our what we love doing, keep it going. So I think, you know, lots of people are helping each other out, and teams are finding ways to cut costs, help drivers become, you know, stay with them and stay with the team, and championships in turn are finding ways to cut costs. You know, the mini challenge is a prime example of that. Anthony's been working tirelessly, you know, in finding ways for us as drivers and for teams to cut costs to ensure that we've still got a full grid and that everyone can compete and that nobody is penalised.
It's great, isn't it, that these drivers are putting the thought into it. And there are lots of different approaches that you've seen, or that I've seen from different championships whom I've kept in touch with over the break. And all of them have different approaches. And you know what? All of them I find perfectly acceptable for the drivers, and, you know, well thought out, very well intentioned. Even if it's, okay, we're not going to reschedule anything, we're just going to, when the schedule comes up again, we're going to start at the point that we're not going to reschedule any dates because people have had other things booked in, work and so on and so forth. You've had the touring cars which have obviously rescheduled. The other club championships have just said, right, okay, if the first 5 rounds were in the bit where lockdown was on, we'll just scrap those and we'll just run half the dates on the original dates if they're still available. And, you know, very pragmatic approach, and either way for me works. So, you know, well done to all of the championship organisers who, let's face it, have lost a fair bit of money over this. So let's hope that they get the support that they deserve over the remainder of the season.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think especially being a driver in the minis, Anthony has consulted us on every decision he's made, and made sure that, you know, it is a majority decision, and that everyone is as happy as can be. So it's really a team effort from everyone, and I think the general consensus is that everyone's happy and looking forward to getting back out on track.
Jack MacIntyre on pole. We had a little glimpse there of Dave the Machine Marshall. I haven't used the nickname so far this weekend. He's in 8th place now. Callum Newsham ahead of him in 7th, but it's Jack MacIntyre on provisional pole. The Ryan Elliott in 2nd position. Senna Proctor in 3rd. Be good to get Procky up onto a podium here. Really settling in, isn't he, Senna Proctor? I mean, this is... Oh, he's down to 4th now because Tobin Lee has gone up ahead. Tobin Lee actually was on the screen, as you can see on the left-hand side, there's the S saying Sim Racer. I was saying at the start of the year, it looks like the word Sleigh, which is why I mentioned the Sleigh brothers from the Scottish Mini Cooper Cup, who were 2 of the early champions. I think Tim and David Sleigh, both very, very quick drivers, both brothers, run separate businesses now in the mix as well. And I was racking my brains trying to think of the other champion who I missed out. I mentioned Vic Covey, and it was Thirlwall. He was the other mini champion who I wanted to mention. And a very, very talented driver, Kenny Thirlwall, who's multi-champion. I think he's got the record for the most wins in Scottish minis. But blighted by having no budget. And it's such a pity because this guy, major, major talent in the car in the mini championship, just by virtue of the number of wins that Kenny Thirlwall had taken. And just couldn't have the budget to move up further, but I would have loved to have seen him in JCW Minis or Clio Cup back in the day as well. We just didn't have the chance. But he's still club racing and he's moved into motorbikes now, which is pretty well in it. And that's an unusual move for someone to move from cars to bikes. Sometimes you see them move the other way. But he's done superbly in bikes as well. So I thought I'd give Kenny a shout out. He's one of my favourite drivers to watch back in the day.
Oh, brilliant! That's strange to go from cars to bikes, as you said, but. Yeah, it's strange. I've never trusted a bike. I don't mind going as fast as you want in a car, but get me on 2 wheels, be it a mountain bike or something like that. I don't know. I feel like I haven't quite got full control. So fair play to him for being able to do that.
And as I mentioned, there are lots of plenty of other talented drivers that one could single out, but he's just one that grabbed my attention over the years, particularly in that championship. Really super championship, Celtic Speed Scottish Mini Cooper Cup over the years. And the other thing is with the Scottish Motor Racing Club, they sound like a commercial for them. I don't even work for them. I haven't worked for them for about 3 years, but they really look after their own, the Scots. And the Scottish Motor Racing Club, you know, if there's a Scottish driver racing in England or in Europe, Alan Vinicius, who was the chair back in the day, would make sure he knew what every driver abroad from Scotland was doing and give them a name check in the deal. Really, really looks after them. You know, I don't think there is any other club, racing-wise, that looks after their own as much as the SMRC do. As I say, I'm not on the payroll, and haven't commentated on them for years, but it really impressed me greatly, the integrity and the work that went on there.
I think that shows through with their drivers as well. I think you know, there's lots of Scottish mini drivers that come through, and they're all brilliant lads, and they're all great fun. I did the Citroen C1 Spa 24 hours with some Scottish drivers as part of a Scottish team. I'm not Scottish myself, but I felt like I became a Scot for a day, and I absolutely loved it. Really brilliant guys and great fun to do. So yeah, big fan.
Yeah, some good racing to be had there, and the away days were good as well. I remember we had the Scottish Classic Championship joining us on the touring cars at Croft one year, and absolutely mega. And funny enough, I remember there was I was commentating with Vic Covey Jr. Sorry, not Vic Covey Jr. Vic Covey Senior at Croft, and we were hollering and shouting about the Scottish Minis and Classics going on, and we had Steve Ryder standing behind us in the commentary box, absolutely enthralled at the racing that was going on. Magic experience, actually. Super stuff. But we've got some good stuff going on track here with 5 minutes to go. We're looking at Tobin Lee, who is provisionally on the outside of row 2 at the minute, and he's got to try and eke a little bit more time out to close on Ryan Elliott, who is P3. Second position now is Dave Marshall, who's done what he did in race number 1. And it's the two M's, MacIntyre and Marshall provisionally on the front row, as we watch Ryan Elliott currently in 3rd place. Senna Proctor is 5th. So Sen could be challenging for a podium here from 5th position. Callum Newsham, I nearly said Dave Newsham. Callum Newsham is 6th. Max Coates 7th, still carrying that momentum. Matt Richards in 8th place from Jordan Brennan, with Max Bird in 10th place. And again, Max Bird is going to be ruining the fact that he had a decent start for Reverse Grid 2, and that race at the moment is in the ether. There could have been a maiden podium for him, so he just seems to have every little sort of opportunity, Max Bird, nipped away from him, unfortunately.
Yes, it does. I've just noticed, I think Dave Marshall might have a penalty, if I'm correct, with the P next to his name there. I wonder what that one's for. It could... Oh, he's in the pits, that's why. There we go.
So he's sitting there with his arms folded at the moment, watching everybody else. I have this sort of image of him having, you know, set a decent lap and then going into pit lane and folding his arms, thinking, "Yep, job's done." Jack Mack out front, and this could be a classic confrontation here between these two. It's going to be interesting to see who gets off the line quickest out of the two of them. Jack Mack, in his interview after race 1, I thought Josh sounded confident that he was closing in on Dave Marshall in race 1, and he'll carry that forward into this one.
Yeah, he will. He'll have a little bit of confidence. I think, you know, whether that was maybe a little bit of mind games because he knew Dave was listening. And I know they're good friends, but, you know, whether he's just trying to get in his head and say, "Look, Dave, I've got a bit of pace."
Apologies for the little bit of silence there. We're just having an update from Mike to tell us that the break will now happen after qualifying, so the drivers are going to get a little bit of downtime as well. But stay with us. We've got 3 minutes and 35 seconds of Q2 to go. Then we're going to do the interview with our featured drivers and, of course, the pole position man. And then we'll go into the break. We'll keep you abreast of what's going on as Mike is doing so for us. There is Keir McConomy running in 17th place at the moment. So here in the 21 car, had his best result in the last race at Croft last time out, 14th position. Really good drive from Keir McConomy. I think we singled that out. Apologies, Keir, if we didn't. I think we did give you a little bit of a shout out, but best result. The one thing when we get to race 4 of the day that I'm not sure of is whether someone has bettered their previous meetings best during races 1 to 3, because I don't have going forward all of the top 20s from the whole day, if that makes sense. So if we do miss something like that, that's the reason why. But McConomy running well. Dave Marshall's still in the pit, seemingly happy with his P2 at the minute. So it's MacIntyre, Marshall, Elliott, Lee, Proctor and Newsham. Things relatively settled at the moment, Josh.
Yeah, there is, and it's just interesting to see that little bit more of a field spread. You know, in Q1 we saw, you know, it was thousandths of a second between first and sixth, I think it was, but it's just starting to spread out a little bit now. There's a tenth here, half a tenth there, a little bit more space. Whether that's drivers becoming a little bit tired of the relentless nature of Knockhill, or perhaps they're over driving, or perhaps Jack Max just put in an absolute corker of a lap. We don't know, but it's interesting to see how the field spread is just getting a little bit longer.
It was a good lap, wasn't it? Because just looking at the free practice time this morning, the Jack Mac was quickest there, 53.5, and he's done a 53.504, so he is about 800ths of a second quicker than he was in free practice. So I think he'll be happy with that. If you go from free practice, even though Dave Marshall got the first pole, Jack Mac knew that he'd got the, someone's just had a spin in pit lane. That was unusual to see. I've seen that before actually, and I can't remember what championship it was, but saw somebody spin into pit lane. It might have been the Scottish Legends Cars Championship where that happened once, which is actually a little bit worrying if somebody does that.
Yeah, I can imagine it could be quite easy to do if it's a bit wet, because there is an undulation change there coming into pit lane, so it could be something that you could do, but you know, it is a dangerous thing to do at the same time.
So Matt Richards still trying to close in and improve on his 8th position at the moment. I think it was Craig Timmins just rejoining. Josh Martin going through as well. Josh Martin and Tobin Lee, our featured drivers from this half of the meeting. So hopefully we'll grab a quick word with them after quali. And still MacIntyre, Marshall. See, we've got a fair few drivers in the pits now, pretty much happy with what they have done. Max Coates down in 7th, Matt Richards in 8th place, and then Jordan Brennan and Max Bird. So plenty of oh, and now we get a little bit of a change, because Jordan Brennan has moved up from 9th on the grid in the closing stages into 2nd. So Dave Marshall knocked down to 3rd. Jordan Brennan, and with more cars in the pits, perhaps making the most as the checkered flag comes out, making the most of a slightly quieter track. Jordan Brennan, great result for him.
Yeah, really good lap that from Jordan. He's really closed the gap up, and again, yeah, as you said, he's made use of that clear track. It's something I like to try and do. I find it easier to have clear track ahead of me rather than a car right ahead of me. I find there's more time in myself in clear air than there perhaps is in trying to, you know, slipstream or whatever. So he's really done that very well, and I'm sure he'll be chuffed with that.
And Matt Richards coming up as well, goes into 4th position last knockings as well, so well done to him. Then it's Ryan Elliott in 5th position. Tobin Lee is in 6th place. Then it's Senna Proctor, got knocked down the order very slightly in the closing stages of that one. Callum Newsham winds up in 8th place. 9th goes to Max Coates, and then in 10th position Max Bird. So Max Bird holds on to a top 10 position there. Jack MacIntyre, I think, is going to be happy with that. Let's have a quick look, see who we've got in the waiting room, whether we've got Jack Mac there. No, we haven't yet. So let's just run through the top positions for you. It was Jack MacIntyre from Jordan Brennan, and I'm getting loads of pings in my ear rolls, which tells me that drivers are coming through. The other thing I need to do is just very quickly check and see where Josh Martin was in the mix as well. Okay, we'll come back to that. I won't keep the drivers waiting. So let's go and have a word. Let's go and have a quick word with our pole position man, Jack MacIntyre. You must be pleased to be back on pole position, Jack.
Yeah, it's a bit more like it. Finally got it hooked up a few times and was nowhere near the off-track curbs. So yeah, really pleased with that.
That was a fascinating session for Josh Stanton and myself to watch, because I've got to say, I think this has been one of the most entertaining qualifying sessions or venues that we've had for qualifying over the course of the season so far, because you never actually knew what was going to happen until the end. And indeed, we had Jordan Brennan popping up into P2 on the very last lap, just before the checkered flag went out. So were you aware of what Jordan was doing as well?
Reasonably. Well, to be fair, I probably should have been a little bit more aware. I almost got in his way at the end, coming out the last corner, but thankfully I didn't, so it didn't make any difference. But yeah, no, it's been a bit of a shake-up really in terms of pace. It's a fun little track. It's an odd one, and you need to really be accurate. So it probably plays to different strengths that different people have. So yeah, it's good to get things shaken up a little bit.
And are you happy to improve on? We were watching free practice earlier on, so you actually did a better time in Q2 than you did in free practice before the meeting got underway.
Yeah, chuffed to be honest. I was looking at the split coming out of the first sector, and I was up like 2/10 on my time, and I had no idea where it came from. You know, that was, I think my best time in practice from the week was a 0.4, but that was only because of the chicane and taking a bit of an adventurous line through it, shall we say.
What would you say would be the sort of legal optimum time around here? Would you be looking for in the minis?
There's still a little bit of time left there. I lost a small amount coming out of the last sector, so maybe a low 4 if you absolutely hit everything perfect.
Right. But difficult to do, no doubt.
Oh yeah, give me 1,000 tries and I'll maybe do it.
We've got a bit of a break now before the race due to the way things are planned out today. Is that good or bad for you?
I don't know really. Give me a chance to get some food, I guess. But yeah, just trying to get my head in it. It's probably a little bit bad since I've just come off quite a good qualifying session. I really kind of got into a good rhythm there. So we'll see. Hopefully, just try and get my head down in the race and try and pull away.
Okay, Jack, thanks very much. Congratulations on taking another pole position in the championship, and we'll see you for the race in a few minutes' time.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have a word with our two feature drivers, and I think first of all, who's first in this? We've got Josh Martin first in this. So, Josh Martin, welcome to the virtual commentary box, and tell us a little bit about your day so far.
Yeah, it's been going all right. That session could have gone a bit better. I had a really good lap, but the times were all just so close. Like half a tenth, and you can be 4 places higher than you end up. I think I ended up 11th. And that race that they had the technical problem with, I lost the front row start, so that was a bit of a shame. But yeah, it's been going all right.
Yeah, I was going to say, how does that affect your mindset? Because there you were, you and Isaac Smith, who were sort of dicing with Max Coates for the class lead in the real world drivers, and then you sort of get the rug pulled from under you, don't you? There. So how does that affect you mentally?
I just got to move on. It was quite frustrating at the time, but it's happened now, and there's nothing I can do about it.
We'll wait and see what happens in terms of maybe getting the race reinstated or whatever. I know the organisers are working hard as ever they do on this, but I think wherever we are, there's new territory and new problems that are getting thrown at you that we don't get in the real world. So 12th on the grid for this one. What sort of progress do you think you can make?
I could probably definitely aim. I'm aiming to get into the top 10. I should have the pace to get into the top 10. So yeah, probably 8th around there.
I'm just having a quick look down the order to see if I can spot where did Isaac wind up in that one?
Here's the place behind me.
Ah, okay. So you two tied together at the moment, so it's fascinating to watch you guys. And of course, you're going to be keen to try and nip down on that lead that Max Coates has got on you in terms of points at the moment.
I'm sat right behind Max Coates on the grid, and I've got Isaac right by the side of me. So it should be a good race. It's
going to be fascinating to watch you through it. Josh, well, great stuff on that one. If possible, I was wondering if we could tee you up for the break into our final round. If we could maybe do that in the week. Sorry to discuss this on air, as it were, but
yeah,
if you'd be up for that, it'd be nice to have a chat with you. So we'll tee that one up in the week. Gives our viewers something to look forward to for next week's programme. So Josh Martin there,
all right,
our feature driver this one. Good luck for the race, Josh. We'll catch you afterwards.
Cheers.
We'll have a word with our third driver post the qualifying, our second featured driver for this half of the meeting. And that's Tobin Lee. So Tobin, I think P6 for that race.
Yeah, P6. It's pretty. I mean, the time was good, but everyone stepped up their game. I think in the first quali, my time would have been good enough for third. So everyone stepped up, and the times are so close. And yeah, so I'm not too displeased, but there's going to be some work to do in the race to get up, which is going to be difficult around here. As we've seen in the first race, it's super, super difficult to make any moves. So yeah.
And how was your week? Obviously, last weekend when we were chatting to you, told us about the race with Jensen Button. And did you actually get to chat to Jensen in any way at all while that event was on?
Yeah. So all throughout the week prior to the race, I was working with Jensen in Discord, just as we are now, working on the cars, and he is so cool because he gets so into his racing. from working with him for that week and even keeping up with him at the moment, it's like you can just see why he was so successful in Formula One, because his mind just breathes and purely thinks about racing and how to get the most out of a car. And he was extremely good as well on the sim, which is really good to see. And we ended up doing really, really well up against some professional players and professional teams on a set of Corsa Competizione, which is like the sister game to this title that we're playing on at the moment. And yeah, it was really cool. Like he's a really good lad, and it's pretty surreal. Like now watching Formula One, you know, and actually seeing him on TV, knowing that last week we were working together. So yeah, it's a very cool experience.
That's really good. And there's actually a nice little link. We've mentioned Rallycross a couple of times today with Stanley Protz, whose granddad started off in Rallycross, Tony, and we talked about the Rallycross track here. Dave Marshall said he'd raced on the Rallycross track before. And of course, Jensen's dad, John Button, was a very successful British Rallycross driver back in the day. Probably slightly before the day of Tony Proctor, I'm guessing. But it's just nice having that sort of tie-in and bring. You know, motor racing is a very close world. You know, even back to Rallycross in the 70s and 80s, which is way before your time, Tobin, and you don't really need to worry about that.
Yeah, that's it.
But a nice bit of background anyway. That these guys are still in and around motorsport. Good to hear your experiences there. So sixth position on the grid, and well, we look forward to seeing you. I think we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll hopefully see you on the podium for the race that's coming up a little bit later on. Tobin Lee, thanks ever so much.
Cheers.
So there we are. That's the interview with our pole position man, Jack MacIntrye, and he's got Jordan Brennan alongside. That's useful, isn't it? And a neat segue into our lunchtime interview, which is with the man himself, Jordan Brennan, who lines up in P2. From Josh Stanton and myself, Richard John Neal, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with our next race for you once the break is done. So enjoy the interview, enjoy your lunch, and we'll catch up with you in a few minutes.
Welcome to the Storage Cupboard. Once again, our interview today is with Jordan Brennan. Jordan, hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. And thanks very much for joining us. As everybody can see from the branding around you, you're in the Liquid Molly car. So how did that come about?
My dad's done a lot of work with them in British touring cars, and I've just put it on the car.
They're getting good value for money from you, aren't they, from the e-racing series, because you twice on the podium now. And tell us about your journey in the e-racing, because I think from the second round onwards, you were really hitting the top 10. You've had 2 podiums thus far, but you're not a seasoned sim racer, are you? Tell us a little bit about your history in racing and then how you've moved into sims.
I've not really done any racing really. I've just done the odd karting events now and then, just for fun. I've won got a few trophies. And sim racing, I did one sim championship on Project Cars probably in 2015. Never finished it because of school and college around the time. But other than that, this is my first full season in any sim racing.
And it's a fantastic achievement, and I guess a great opportunity for you to be racing in the official Mini Challenge E-Series with the likes of Max Coates up at the sharp end, Luke Kidsley, of course, who's a championship winner from other championships, and then you've got the likes of Dave Marshall, Tobin Lee, and all these really good sim racers, and you're up there mixing it with them on the podium. So, you know, full respect to yourself. And how does that feel?
Yeah, it feels good. I was on with Dave Marshall last night practicing for this weekend, and he's struggling to keep up with me. So it's looking good for this weekend.
It's KNOCKHILL, isn't it, this weekend? So yeah. I'm wondering, there's a family connection, isn't there, with KNOCKHILL? So can you explain a little bit about your background in terms of how you've got involved with motor racing, your family got involved with motor racing going back?
My dad used to race MG Metros in MG Owners Club, late 80s, early 90s, I think. So it was before I was born, so I never got to see it, unfortunately. But I think you've got to follow with that. But yeah, that was when my dad started. And then from when I was born, I've just followed Dave Newsham through Legends and then into Clios and into touring cars. And I've spent a lot of time there.
How did you hook up with the Newshams? Because I think you're based in Preston. Were you based in Preston then, or were you in Scotland where Davey's in Inverness? Or
Well, Dave lived in Leyland originally. Well, he was from Wales, then moved into Leyland. And then my mum was friends with Jackie, Dave's wife, and they've known each other since they were teenagers. So that's how we met them.
Dave's a great peddler, isn't he? And not a lot of people know that he was, I think he was a speedway rider as well before he went into Legends. So I guess as a bike rider, he had that feel for car control. And whatever he's done, he's won in, isn't he? Whether it was the Legends cars, I think Scottish champion, national champion, into Clio's where he dominated. So a good mentor for you.
Yeah, it was all right. not really had any driver coaching off him yet, but we'll see.
He probably owes you a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, the amount of times I've been to touring car rounds and Legends.
And I guess you've probably sort of grown up then with Callum.
Yeah, for as long as I can remember, I've known Callum. Just every weekend. Well, it was almost every weekend with Legends and racing and stuff, just meeting up with them all.
And in terms of the all the formulas that you've seen race, what would you say was your favourite, and what would you aspire to if you had the budget and the chance to go racing for real on track in something?
For me, I'd love to do the minis in real life. It would be great, but obviously I don't have the money for that. But for me, my favourite ones to watch were Legends. They're just so fun, so close. The cars are great, cheap as well. I mean, I'd love to do that. Just have a round in that would be fun.
So we're looking at trying to get you back on the podium again this weekend at KNOCKHILL. And I made the reference to KNOCKHILL, obviously Dave being the Scottish champion going back before he moved on to the national Legends. It's almost that ladder, isn't it, with Legends racing, where you can do do the Scottish championship and then move up into the nationals, which Dave did. So how familiar are you with the KNOCKHILL layout? You were saying that Dave Marshall, the championship leader of the eSeries, is following you at the moment.
Yeah. I don't really know too much of it. I've just only driven around it on project cars and this, so I've not done too many laps around it. But I haven't been to KNOCKHILL for years, so I know what the track looks like. Walked around it a lot. But yeah.
And coming back to eSeries, tell us a little about your rig and your setup there, because I know a lot of people that are watching our programs are quite keen to know what sort of equipment people are using. So talk us through what you've got. So
I have a Thrustmaster T300 RS wheelbase. It's pretty mediocre. It's not brill, but it's not the worst. But for what I need it for, it's all right. And wheel stand, I've got a GTO Omega wheel stand. Not fixed to the seat. The seat's just a desk chair, so it's not the best, but I'm working with what I've got. And then I've got a Thrustmaster TH80, I think, called shifter, but I've got it in sequential, so just up and down the gears. And I've got T3PA Pro pedals, which I'm struggling at the minute. Well, at the start of the round, start of the season, I was struggling to get a nice feel on them, and I've just been playing around with the settings in game, and I think that's where I found the pace.
Was that between rounds 1 and 2? Because that's when round 2 was when you really hit the top 10.
Yeah, well, round 1, I'd literally, I think the pedals arrived the morning for that race. Right. So it was literally just plug in and go. But since I had a few things set up wrong for the first round and it just didn't go so well. And then after that, I've just been playing with them, just found a sweet spot.
And in the sim standings, you're in 5th position in the championships. You're actually in the prize bit of it. That must be good, given your lack of experience really in sim racing.
Yeah, it's great. Especially looking at what other people have done as well, to be where I am at the minute. So I'm hoping I can get some good points this weekend. Be a little bit higher up on podium as well.
That'd be good to see. You've had 2 P2s at the moment, and one of the things that we've been talking about in the championship is trying to make it as real world as possible. You know, on the slowing down lap, you have to do the lap rather than switch off, and it extends to other things like having Andy Ringland as clerk of the course. Have you had any chats with Andy at all?
We have a driver briefing before every race meeting, and he'll just, if he has any concerns or anything, he raises it with everyone.
He's very much, isn't it, like the real world, because you have a driver briefing at a real world meeting as well.
Yeah, so every weekend.
That's a good way for you guys to get a little bit of familiarity with what happens in that environment.
Yeah.
So, Jordan, last couple of weekends coming up, Brands Hatch Grand Prix next weekend, KNOCKHILL this weekend. What are your aims really for the last two events?
Well, if practice is anything to go by for KNOCKHILL, I'm hoping for a pole in qualifying in both of them if I can, and in the race convert that into the wins. But from what I found yesterday with Dave Marshall when we were practicing, it's very tricky to follow people around KNOCKHILL. So I think qualifying is going to be key, and reverse grid is going to be difficult. With Brands GP, I've not done much of Brands GP. Not been around there in this car, so I'll just have to get a lot of practice in and see what I can do around there.
It's a mega circuit. I think everybody loves it. For a spectator's point of view, if you're really there, the Indy circuit is probably slightly better, but from the driver's perspective, Brands Hatch GP is absolutely superb. So we're looking forward to that. So Jordan, thanks ever so much for answering our questions. It's been really good to find out a little bit more about you, and I know that our viewers will be interested to have heard what you had to say. I'm really giving a platform for drivers who may not have as much experience. They might think about joining the Winter Series when it happens as well. So I'm going to say thanks again. Give our very best regards to your mum and dad and all of the other Newsham nutters. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of the series.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.
Welcome back to the official mini challenge eSeries with Virtual Reality Racing Club, and it's Josh Danson with me, Richard John Neal, for the second half of our meeting. And we had qualifying 2 just before the break. Slight difference in order today. We had a technical problem which prevented us seeing race 2, and again, if we can't update you by the end of the programme as to what's happening with race 2, the first half of the meeting, then we'll let you know via social media as we do the championship points after each meeting once they're confirmed. But we've got a grid here ready for race 2 with Jack Mack on pole position. So he's outside with the Union flag atop of the car is Jordan Brennan. Jordan was looking for double pole. I think he's done well in qualifying here. A late surge to grab second position. Row 2 though, boys in blue, Dave Marshall and Matt Richards. Dave Marshall, the championship leader. Row 3, can't quite see them, Ryan Elliott and Tobin Lee. But we are underway here at KNOCKHILL, and it is a close start. Everybody off the line safely and going down into Duffer Strip for the first time. Jordan Brennan being squeezed, as we would expect in the Liquid Money car, down into second position. So it's Jack Mack the leader, Jordan Brennan in second place. Then chasing hard, we've got Dave Marshall and Matt Richards. So Marshall with work to do. Fifth position is Ryan Elliott, followed by Toby Lee as they go through one of the key points on the track. A couple of cars getting sideways, one of the key points on the track for track limits. Very strongly uphill and into Clark Curve. It's a good start. Matt Richards in third ahead of Dave Marshall, the championship leader. The championship gap now back to 178 points, with pole position going the way of Jack MacIntrye, who leads them down into the hairpin for the first time. But a decent enough start by everybody, Josh Danton.
Yeah, really clean, good respect shown by everyone. Just seeing Max Coates trying to get round the outside of Senna Proctor there, coming into the hairpin. Looks like he's just about done it. But yeah, really good, clean, respectful driving from everyone, what you'd expect.
Senna Proctor, another northeastern driver, of course, and we've got a strong contingent of drivers from that part of the world. And this is close. Up front, Dave Marshall will be keen here, of course, not to throw away the decent championship lead that he's got. He won't throw away all of it, if anything happened, but he won't want to lose any of it. So, in one respect, he'll be, as we've seen from previous rounds, keen to make a move past if he can, but equally won't want to do so in any rash manner. He was known as being dubbed as Dave the Machine Marshal because of his real clinical approach to this championship so far. His 13th win of the championship coming in race number 1 of the day. But it's the other Anthony Williams nickname, the Silent Assassin, Jack MacIntyre, who is out front as they lead across the line again and down into Duffer's Dip. Jordan Brennan trying to close in. Good interview we had with Jordan, first time he's done such a thing. So again, another good learning experience. A little bit of contact there from Marshall on the back of Richards.
Yeah, just a little tap, letting him know he's there again. Teammates, you know, there's no animosity there. It's just letting him know he's there. Bit of psychological thing, as I said. We don't have any lights in the Minis, so you can't flash. So it's one way of getting in your competitor's head and just letting them know you're there.
Can gesticulate as well, assuming they're looking in the mirrors. And they'd have to look in the mirrors, I guess, to see the light. So that's one thing. But I'll be very surprised if Dave Marshall takes his hands off the wheel, because he's 100% focused all the time as we watch. Tobin Lee has been passed by Senna Proctor, and Tobin looking to try and get the position back. Max Coates down in 9th, Callum Newsham 8th, Tobin Lee 7th. At the minute, as they go up the hill, I was talking in terms of maybe having a Proctor podium in the mid stages of qualifying, but started this one in 7th position. So it's got work to do as we watch Rob Butler getting stuck in as well. Rob angling to get into the top 10, and Max Bird right with him. So Max will be a little bit heaved about having the reverse grid race 2 disappearing from the schedules when he was on for a front row start. But again, you know, very near to front row pace, so top 10 pace, as indeed once again is Damon Hall, who's looking good in 12th place, Josh Martin in 13th, and Isaac Smith down in 20th. Not sure if Isaac had a drive through or a problem on lap 1.
I'm not sure either, but it looks like the kind of top half of the grid, well, kind of top 7 almost, going to start to break away a little bit now, start to extend their gap, and perhaps drive away. And I think probably our race winner could come from that lead group.
Ryan Elliott with the fastest lap at the moment as we watch Callum Newsham nibbling away at Tobin Lee. Tobin, one of the drivers we heard from just before our break. Max Coates is in behind as well. And those two liveries, the white car with the red top and the white, black, yellow and red of Max Coates, are liveries that we're going to get well familiar with in the Real World Championship, which will get underway in just a couple of weeks' time now at Donington Park. And plans being made, production plans, of course, well underway for our live coverage of those events. It was quite pleasing in the week to have a look at the BARC website and see the timetable up there now. So it is tangibly getting closer now, which is good to see. Coates putting a little bit of pressure on. Josh Martin at the back of that group. There's a little bit of a gap back to Theo Bridgeman, who's running well in 17th place at the moment, and dicing well with Tom Williams, who is in 17th. So good battle between those two. MacIntyre here doing what he needs to do, and just building that lead at the moment as best he can over Jordan Brennan in P2. Brennan will be keen here to try and grab his first win. No stranger, as we've heard, to the podium in the Liquid Money car, and has been a real impressive arrival into sim racing, and mightily impressive with what he's done. He said he had problems in the first event of the season, but since then has been pretty much a regular on top 10, if not top 5 pace.
Yeah, absolutely. He showed real class in the way he drives. You know, really calm, precise, does everything that you'd want a driver to do. So yeah, definitely one to watch for the future.
I don't remember his dad racing in the Metro Championship. If you saw the interview, there's some pictures of Jordan's dad Mick having raced in the MG, I think he said M Jones Club Metro Championship back in the day, which was good to see. Must be some video that we could probably dig out. I'm sure there'll be something on YouTube. But look at the battle between the two teammates here for 3rd and 4th place. They'd probably do well not to battle too hard, because it could allow Jordan Brennan to get away. It's Marshall in 3rd at the moment, with Matt Richards right behind him. Matt will be keen to try and put a few points back after his problems in race number 1. But the top 4, 3 seconds clear, as you can see from the timing on the left-hand side of the screen, of Ryan Elliott. Then it's Senna Proctor, who is there. In fact, Proctor goes ahead of Ryan Elliott as we look at the timing screen. So Proctor up to 5th, but with 3 seconds to make up to the lead quartet. It'd be lovely to see Senna Proctor in with a chance of a podium in this race, but he's not going to be thinking about reverse grids, which at the moment sees Rob Butler on provisional pole for race 2. Max Bird in 11th. That's going to be frustrating to Max if he finishes there, because he had that chance of the first reverse grid race taken away from him very sadly. But there is Rob Butler in the white car at the back of this group running in 10th place. Max Coates in front of him is 9th. And then just a little bit of a gap back to Max Bird, and then a slightly bigger gap, 2 seconds back to Damien Hall, who is in the 246 car running in 12th place at the minute, up ahead of Josh Martin, then Tom O'Farrell, Kim Economy 15th from Tom Williams, Theo Bridgeman, Craig Timmins, then Isaac Smith, a little bit off colour in 19th place from Simon Reed and James Merrills, completing our runners as they are at the moment. But MacIntyre still out front, fastest lap still with Senna Proctor.
Yeah, Senna's showing some really good pace here. I think he's definitely got that clear air now in front of him, and it'll be interesting to see if Brennan, Marshall and Richard start to fight. Can Senna start to close that gap? You know, we've still got 12 minutes left. Can he start to close that gap and perhaps get on the back of them? If they really start to squabble, could there be an opportunity there? Potentially.
Yeah, I think so. He's got absolutely nothing to lose, has he? Because he's got no stake in the championship. So it's just all about pride for him and getting out there and trying to close down. So this is an event for him. 3.66 seconds was the gap. Matt Richards 4th, Senna Proctor 5th. We'll keep an eye on that. And as you say, if the lead quartet get embroiled, they could slow each other up. And Senna Proctor with fastest lap clearly has the pace anyway to try and close in. And he's not under pressure at the moment from Ryan Elliott behind him. Max Bird closing up. Bird in 11th place is closing up on Rob Butler in 10th. So again, we'll keep our eyes on that one. Championship-wise, Jack Mack will take 10 points out of the championship lead of Dave Marshall in this one. If things stay the way they are. Jordan Brennan still in P2. And Rob Butler in 9th. So in fact, Rob Butler moves up a place. So Callum Newsham now on provisional pole for race 2 in the Norscott vending car, and looking to maybe get we call it a home win. It was interesting again. I can't remember whether Dave Newsham is Welsh by birth or whether he's a Scot now. I'm very confused, because if you watch the interview, we know that Dave lives in Inverness now, but Jordan Brennan was saying that Dave moved to Lancashire from Wales. So, and I can't remember the Legends cast history whether Dave was Welsh or not. So I'll probably have to get that cleared up with them. Maybe they could put it in the Facebook feed and let me know whether Dave was Welsh by birth or English by birth and then moved. But confusing story all round, actually.
Yeah, I think so. I'll keep my eyes peeled on Facebook and YouTube to see if we can clear that one up.
I probably did know back in the day, but it's been quite a while since Dave raced in the Legends Cast Championship. But very firmly now, the family based in Inverness and working hard, like everybody in the world of motorsport, to keep their businesses going in these difficult times, and also focus on their racing exploits as well that will hopefully be upcoming. So still MacIntyre the leader, Brennan 2nd, Dave Marshall championship leader 3rd, Matt Richards is in 4th place and still in touch with them, Senna Proctor in 5th. The gap's gone down from 3.9 to 3.6, so he's closing up a little bit, but not hand over fist at the moment, Senna Proctor in the MSL car, but we'll try and continue to to do so as they climb uphill. That's a camera angle there you don't actually see on the TV normally, because that's sort of on the exit of the trioval as they go up the hill. We say to put a camera there, but interesting to see the different angles that you can get here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good because it really shows the gradient actually of the start finish straight. You really come up over a crest. And I remember on the first test we did at Knockhill, one of the local Scots said, aim for the S of the sign as you come up over the brow, because you just can't see where you're going.
Right.
And you have to aim for one of the letters on the bridge that goes across the top. And then that will set you up nicely for your entry into the first corner. But it's a strange one, but it's definitely a challenge.
There are two S's on the bridge, isn't it the Beatson's bridge? Well, there are two S's
so.
on there. Yeah.
I think it might be the first one then. You don't want to be going for the second one. If you're going for the second one, you're going the wrong way.
Oh, Newsham's had a spin, so drops down to 13th position, Callum Newsham. The Beatson's Bridge, incidentally, one of the long-term, that company owned by one of the long-term Scottish drivers, which is John Marshall, owns the Beatson's concern, and he was the Scottish Classics champion. And many of the drivers that are involved with their business put a lot of money back in. A lot of the corners are named after sponsors rather than the original names of the corners, including the hairpin, which I'll be coming up to in a minute, which was named after Jock Taylor, the famous motorbike racer. So here they come into Taylor's the hairpin, which is it still known as the Real Radio hairpin? I'm not sure. It was known as Real Radio for a good while. And again, I'm maybe a little bit out of touch with things Knockhill wise as Jack Mack continues to lead from Jordan Brennan in P2. Dave Marshall third, Matt Richards fourth. How far behind is Senna Proctor at the moment? Still trying to close in. Not making big inroads at the moment, Senna Proctor into the lead quartet. So it looks like Senna might have to settle for that fourth place. But Marshall and Richards having a good battle here between these two.
Yeah, they are. They're teammates again, but showing their class. You know, they're not going for any silly lunges. They both know that there's more up for grabs than just a fight over a podium here. So they're both being very sensible, but it's some good racing. We can clear up the debate about Dave Newsham. Dave is Welsh by birth, but has a Lancashire accent. So thank you, Michelle and Ken, for that.
Yeah, thanks to the Newsham Nutters. That's brilliant. You learn something every day. So he's a Scottish-based Welshman, which is good to know. And there's been some quick Welsh race drivers over the years. Not sure how many races Dave's actually won in Wales, but again, that's one that we'll go back and have a look. I bet David Addison would have known that, because David Addison knows everything, but he probably could have told me that. I should have checked with him first. But thanks ever so much for listening, you guys, and for feeding into our feed. That's much appreciated. As we now look at Josh Martin, one of our featured drivers. So Josh there in the green machine, 11th place, and Damien Hall, the police officer from Barbados, busy chasing him hard. Callum Newsham recovering in 13th place. Tom O'Farrell in 14th. We're really seeing some names moving up towards the top 10 again here. And Damien Hall's having a really good meeting today. Got himself back on form. And you can see Callum Newsham, though, after his spin, trying to get right back at him. So Callum Newsham looking to get up to Callum here, if he works hard, he's in with a shout, because Max Bird, the car ahead of this group, is in 10th place and provisional pole for race 2. Let's have a look as they come up the hill and see whether Callum got the move complete here as they go side by side. Damien Hall to the outside line. Callum Newsham has had a good run. He's got his nose poking down the inside as he comes to Duffus Dip. Knockhill, one of the circuits where you can really, a little bit of a wobble there from Josh Martin in 11th place. Callum does get the move done. So Callum Newsham now up into 12th position. Damien Hall there in the white, light blue and yellow car down to 13th.
Yeah, I think we've had a change for second place as well. Dave Marshall has got ahead of Jordan Brennan, and it looks like it's going to be quite tight between Jordan and Richards there as well.
Yeah, Matt Richards, it frees him up, doesn't it? Because it's now no longer his teammate in front of him, and Jordan here could well get pushed off the podium slot. Disappointing for Jordan. Was looking forward to maybe seeing him get a P2 or maybe challenging for the win. As you can see, it's Jack MacIntrye still out front, and Marshall now takes effectively, or cuts the potential deficit from this race down to 4 points. And you can see that Marshall is just clearing off now from the battle for third place, with Matt Richards really putting Jordan Brennan under pressure. This is good character building stuff for Jordan, because as you know, not that much experience necessarily, and he's going to learn all the time from having to defend. We've seen him good attacking driving as well. But having a driver like Matt Richards behind him, he's going to be just learning so much in the car now. And if he can hold on to third place, he'll be well chuffed with that. He's giving us our little lesson on defending, isn't he? Normally we get a lesson from Ryan Elliott, who's down in 7th place at the moment. He's our top defender of the season so far in 7th place. Let's just recap down to the outer reaches of the top 10. Elliott 7th, Max Coates 8th, Rob Butler 9th, Max Bird on provisional pole, and keeping his fingers crossed that he will stay there for race 4.
Yeah, I think so. I think Max will be really looking forward to a potential reverse grid pole if he can get it. But just going back to Dave, these few laps are going to be crucial for deciding the fate of his race. Really, you know, he's now managed to get ahead of Jordan and Richards, and now he can start to build that gap and settle in and maybe start to reel in Jack. I'm not sure, but yeah, he's now almost solidified that 2nd place because he pumped in a few really good lap times, having got past Jordan.
Apologies to all Ryan Elliott's supporters out there. He's got the fastest lap of the race, so we've corrected that one and mentioned that with a 53.9, so very good lap from Ryan Elliott, running well. He's in 6th position, so putting in some very good lap times at the moment. The potential 6 points that goes with that. There is Ryan just going out of shot. Rob Butler in behind him. Max Coates still in 9th place, and then just coming over the brow of the hill is Max Bird. There's Coatesy, featured driver from race number 1, missed out on race 2, but Max enjoying his racing and will still maintain the championship lead for the real world drivers here. Remember, Isaac Smith is in 16th place, and Josh Martin, who's behind Max, 2 places down, in 11th at the moment. So Max will be eking out a little bit more of a real world class championship lead in this one, and that's what he needs to do in the 71 car. He gets a sim set up, by the way. We haven't mentioned the prizes that come through the championship, but the top 5 drivers in each class will receive varied prizes. The main prize for the sim racer. The sim racer is a real world race weekend with the Mini Cooper Championship, and then the other prizes include simulator sessions and track days and the like. So it is one of, if not the best competitions in terms of the prizes that are offered this championship. Real groundbreaking stuff with the best of the sim world drivers and the real world drivers as well. As we get a little battle on here. This is for 10th place, this is for provisional pole next time out, and Josh Martin, who we spoke to just before the break, is putting Max Bird under pressure, looks down the inside line, tees up the inside, grabs 10th, grabs potential pole position for race 2 as well. So good stuff from Josh Martin. Yeah,
really good move to get up the inside. It was good respect as well shown by Max. It would have been really easy for him to just squeeze Josh onto that curb, and to be honest, it probably would have been Josh would have been put out onto the grass and
but look at
probably
Bird
lost
coming
a lot
back.
of time.
Sorry to cut across you there, Josh, but Max Bird read that well, and he's coming back, tees up the inside line, hard on the brakes, and we're going to see Josh Martin go for the cutback. He was staying out wide as they climb up through the hairpin onto the main straightaway here again. There they come up across the line. Max Bird's got himself back into 10th, but now we've got Callum Newsham in the mix as well. So Newsham could come through and pitch a provisional pole here. He's certainly on the pace. We know that he's been on the pace all day so far, and he's all over the back of Josh Martin. And look how Martin has to get a little bit preoccupied with the Norscott car right behind him. He really is getting into him, and this takes the pressure off to off Max Bird, and this could be crucial with just over a minute left in this race.
Yeah, really good racing. Callum's going to be rubbing his hands together here. It's really nice to be the chaser and not the chased, the hunter and not the hunted even. So yeah, he'll be really rubbing his hands together, looking forward to a good battle here.
Superb stuff. This for provisional pole next time out. Martin gets back in front. Newsham goes to the outside line. Max Bird is locking up as well as Toby Lee's gone up to 5th, head of Proctor. Here we come across the line again. Superb battle for 10th position. Job to know where to look at the moment. MacIntrye, Jack Mack 4 seconds clear of Dave Marshall. He in turn is 1.7 seconds clear of Jordan Brennan in 3rd. Then Matt Richards 4th from Toby Lee. Senna Proctor, again a good debut from him, in 6th position. Riding the curbs a little bit is Josh Martin. Max Bird finds himself now down in 12th position. So Josh Martin looking for a front row start. Again, this is where we were in race number 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It's again, you really don't know. It could be any one of these 3 starting on pole, and it's kind of all or nothing really, because there's so much to gain from being in 10th, but 11th and 12th, that's where you're going to start. So the guys are going to be really wanting to get that 10th position.
They will, and Martin is in the box seat at the moment. Now look at this, we've got Damien Hall closing up as well in 13th place. So Hall is there. Tom Williams trying to close up as well on that group, all fighting it out for the reverse group pole position. And Damien Hall would love to be there, but at the moment Josh Martin from Callum Newsham. The clock is ticking down, and a little mistake onto the escape road there. Goes Josh Martin, that will lose him momentum, but Callum Newsham grabs a little bit of curb, but uses the extra momentum to go through. Max Bird's coming up to the party as well to try and go through, but Martin read that well, got it all back on track to defend from Max Bird, but Callum Newsham now up into 10.
Yeah, Josh will be gutted with that, but maybe he can get past Max here, but I don't know. But as I said, Callum was rubbing his hands together. He was ready to pounce on any opportunity there. Really patient, and yeah, drove very well there.
The race leader is on the final lap. We see somebody disappear off there into the hairpin as we watch. It's Jack MacIntyre who is still out front, and it is MacIntyre leading from Marshall and Brennan. Matt Richards next up, still got this fascinating battle going on. Well, it was a battle for 10th position, but now Callum Newsham is clear of Josh Martin, who is in 11th. Martin's going to be disappointed not to be up with the likes of, well, he won't be that far. Yes, he will be away from Max Coates, because at the moment Max Coates will line up P2 for the final reverse grid race of the day. So championship wise, we might get a clearer picture as the race leader Jack MacIntyre is going to take the win. Jack Mac up the hill, takes the checkered flag, so it's a win for MacIntyre. Dave Marshall in second. Jordan Brennan remains on the podium. A good spirited fight of Matt Richards by Jordan Brennan. So Brennan, a hard-earned podium there. Matt Richards, 4th, Toby Lee in 5th position. Senna Proctor is in 6th. 7th position goes to Brian Elliott. And then 8th position was Rob Butler. 9th goes to Max Coates. And the top 10 completed by Callum Newsham. He starts on provisional pole for the second race of this half of the meeting. And of course, Josh, another super race as we see James Merrill's there very briefly, the 88 guy. I haven't mentioned James in this one, one of our top sim racers, but please give some thought to driver of the race in that one. Be good to know. We'll come back to you after the podiums, but any initial thoughts?
I think a number of drivers could have got it. That last battle with Callum, Josh Martin, Max Bird and Damien Hall just getting in on the end there was really good, really classy driving shown from everyone. But again, the drivers right at the front were almost in a different class there. They just showed great driving skill in every sense. So it could be anyone. I'll have a little think and I'll get back to you in a minute.
Yeah, thanks for that. Take your time, no worries, because we've got the podium interviews to do as well. But certainly plenty of food for thought in what should have been our third race of the day. But in our second one, so we're going to try and grab some quick interviews here. And Mike's telling me I need to get a move on and not get into too deep questioning, so we'll try and be as quick as we can. And the first interviewee that we will talk to is Jordan Brennan. So Jordan, in 3rd position in that one. Difficult race for you, Jordan, but Dave Marshall got past you, but well done fending off Matt Richards. How was it?
Yeah, it was alright. Made a decent start, and then I made a mistake over the chicane, and then that allowed Dave Marshall through. Then I was just, every lap I was just getting hit in the back of by Richards, so back of my car was a bit damaged.
But that's part and parcel of it, I guess.
Yeah, it was alright.
Maybe a visit to the Clark or discuss that one. But anyway, well done. Really good to see you soaking up the pressure there, and another podium to add to the collection, Jordan.
Thank you.
Well done, Jordan Brennan in 3rd place. Let's go to 2nd position and another podium. Well done, Dave Marshall.
Yep, can't complain about that, can I? Happy to come away with 2nd and try and minimise the point gap that Jack will come away with today.
That's good, and obviously fair amount of work to do. It's difficult overtaking around here, so a big job on really for race 4.
Yeah, it's for me it's damage limitation. I'm not trying to force passes, or if the chance is there, I'm going to take it. But if not, I'm quite happy to just keep my front end in one shape and and go from there. But fair play to Jack for that lap time. To do a 5 on race fuel is mighty impressive.
That's a good result. Points-wise, you're exactly where you, at the moment on my maths, you're exactly where you were coming into the meeting, 172 points ahead. So still a very good, healthy lead with one race to go.
Yep, hopefully we can keep it that way.
Nice one. Well done. Good to see you on the podium, Dave Marshall, our championship leader. Let's go to our race winner, Jack Mack, the silent assassin, back on the top step of the podium in the VRRC car. Jack Mack, how was it?
Yeah, really good. First few laps a little bit scary, went defensive a little bit, but then once I got a little bit of a gap, I just got my head down back on the quali line and put some good laps in.
A winner piece to you and the machine at the moment in this meeting. So we're going to work out who's going to be top point scorer on the day. It's all going to be about the reverse grid race. So how do you fancy your chances?
Yeah, well, we'll see. Like, we obviously the issues with race 2, so we've not done a reverse grid yet, so it's going to be interesting. It's a bit of an unknown, so like Dave said, he's going to try and keep himself clean and maintain his lead. I think maybe I have to do the opposite of that and really try and push through. So yeah, probably all or nothing, but we'll see how it goes.
Okay, well, congratulations on the win, Jack, and good luck for the reverse grid race.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
So some quick interviews there as we move on time-wise. Let's go and have a word with Josh Danson, who's been thinking about who was driver of the race.
I think for me, it's got to be Jack Mack. He managed the race really well there. Controlled the pace, as he said. He defended well in the first few laps, as you have to do. And then he just built that gap and was just so consistent. And as I said at the beginning of the day, that's something you've got to be around KNOCKHILL. The smallest mistake can lead to everything. So yeah, for me, I think it could well be Jack Mack. That's my call.
Good call as well. So our two race winners thus far, the two drivers of the races. Remember, it's your shout, the viewers' shout, to give us the driver of the day. We won't know who our third driver of the race is until after this one. It gives us a different perspective, but we very much respect the views of our viewers as to who will come out as driver of the day. But I agree again with that decision. We've seen some really good performances today, but Jack Mack did what he needed to do there to convert pole position. And just to reflect on what we've seen so far, Dave Marshall getting pole in qualifying 1, converting that into the race win in race number 1 from Jack McIntyre, who started 4th on the grid in race 1. Race 2, Jack McIntyre on pole and taking the win. Dave Marshall coming up from 3rd on the grid. So I suppose arguably in terms of places gained, we're seeing that Jack McIntyre slightly the better performing driver on those terms, as it were. But points wise, we've got the championship gap exactly, and again this is by my maths, exactly as it was as we left Croft. 172 points is the gap. Remember, we said that the gap needed at the end of the meeting was 224 point lead for Dave Marshall to wrap the championship up, and not going to be able to do that in this 4th race. Let's join race director Rich Hayden, who has some news for us on race 2.
Yeah, hello everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So unfortunately we had a glitch in the server post race 1 which reset the grid. So we didn't have the starting grid as per race 1 results with the reverse grid. We tried a couple of fixes. Unfortunately we couldn't get it to work. So the sensible thing to do was to move forward to qualifying 2 with race 3 and 4. So as of this race meeting, race 2 is null and void with 0 points. But we will discuss after the session today and talk about what we do and whether we include it in the last round.
That'd be interesting to see. And I've got to say, Rich, this is exactly not exactly the sort of problem, but this sort of scenario with what do you do if you can't run a race. This is what happens in the real world. We've had it many, many times. Touring car wise, of course, it tends to happen at Croft when it pours down with rain and something can't happen. We can't go forward with it, and a race may get shunted to the end of the season or may get voided. So this is actually a real world problem that you're dealing with.
Yeah, it was some quick decisions had to be made because we had drivers who were waiting to go, but it was a little bit of fun, and I had a lot of drivers on the radio asking me what was going on, so I had to be a little bit stern with them and tell them to be quiet while I sorted it out. But we'll have a look at it. We'll do something. Obviously, we just need to get our heads together and figure out what the best way for all the drivers and everybody watching is to make sure we get the right result and decision.
Thanks very much, Rich, and hats off to you, A, for coming on, explaining the situation, and also for the way you dealt with it. It would be it's on par with anything I've seen in the real world. So well done to everybody in the championship. You never know what is going to be thrown at you on a race weekend, and you guys rising to that challenge superbly, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's nice to get something to keep me on my toes. But we're about 2 minutes now from race 4, so hopefully enjoy everybody.
Thanks, Rich Hayden, the Championship Director, there, just telling us all what's going on. So nice to have that clarity as we move into the final race, third and final race of the day. So the third and final race, who are we going to see on pole position? A little bit of a recap here for you. Ryan Elliott got fastest lap in race 3, and he starts on row 2, the outside of row 2. On his inside will be Rob Butler. Now, Rob's had a quietish day by his standards so far, but from third on the grid, he's going to be in with a shout for sure. Ahead of them, we've got the front row with Max Coates starting on the outside, and on his inside, Callum Newsham, who we saw coming through from a spin mid-race, I think in race 1 of the second half of the meeting, and working his way through. That was key, the work that he did coming through, and you saw he never gave up and eventually got into 10th place, and this is absolutely typical JCW Mini Racing. Come through, keep the work going, get into the top 10 and grab that reverse grid pole position, Josh. Superb work by him.
Yeah, it was really good resilience shown by Callum. You know, it's very easy to have a moment, have a spin, and then you know your confidence drops, and that would be that. But yeah, really good resilience shown to get his way back up there, and yeah, he's been rewarded with that reverse grid pole. He'll be wanting to get a good clean getaway from the line, defend for the first couple of laps, and then build that gap exactly like Jack Mack did. Callum's definitely capable of it, so fingers crossed that he can.
Yeah, let's hope he gets a decent result. We've got so I've been through the top 2 rows, and I started with Ryan Elliott, who's got fastest lap in race 3. But behind them, the third row, we've got Senna Proctor, who's going to be on for a podium here for sure, from 5th on the grid. Then Tobin Lee. Senna's first meeting, if you've just joined us, he's deputising for Alex Toth-Jones, who is real-world testing his Porsche this weekend for the Porsche Carrera Cup. And then behind them, we've got Matt Richards, who again was very, very strong, challenging for a podium in race 3 and has been really on form all day so far, as has the man next to him, Jordan Brennan. Jordan sounded a little bit unhappy, not unhappy, but disappointed with that third position. Little mistake he said he made at the chicane, which allowed Dave Marshall through. And that's key to Knockhill Circuit, isn't it? One mistake can allow someone through.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, running a little bit over the gravel, hitting a curve a little bit too hard can put you out of shape. And it's very easy to then lose a position. So maybe a little bit of frustration on his behalf that he made a small mistake, but I think he should be very proud of a podium in such a competitive grid. It's a great achievement.
His results are great. I mean, just looking back, Croft last time out, he had 2 7ths, a 5th, and the 2nd the weekend before that. 2nd, 4th, the 12th, and the 10th. So he's always been, he's been virtually ever present in the top 10 since round 2. He's got very little in the way of racing experience. As we look at the grid forming up, and is Callum Newsham not there? Is he not switched on yet? Have a look. We've got a gap on the outside. Max Coates is there. Maybe someone could tell me if Callum's not managed to get himself fit and ready yet for provisional pole. So we'll get word from race control on whether that is the case. Just going back to the grid, obviously the 5th row of the grid of our reverse grid is the P1 and 2 from race 3. Dave Marshall will start with Jack MacIntrye on the 5th row as the lights are on and we are ready to race. Out go the lights and we go green, and it's Max Coates who leads them away. Making a move is Rob Butler coming up into P2. I don't see what happened. We'll try and get the nod for you on what has happened with Newsham. Can start from the pit lane, so maybe Callum had a technical problem, but it's Max Coates that leads with Ryan Elliott in 2nd place, Rob Butler in 3rd in the white and blue car, then in 4th position Senna Proctor. So are we going to see Senna Proctor grabbing a podium? We've got a contact towards the back of the field as they went out of MacIntyre's for the first time, but up through Clark Curve for the first time. Coming under pressure, it's Max Coates from Ryan Elliott.
Yeah, good start from Max though. Good clean getaway, but it'll now be interesting to see if he can defend Ryan and then maybe build that gap, or the two of them can work together to build a gap from the rest of the field. They're both really switched on drivers, so I'm sure they'll be working together to form that gap.
Out of all the places where I watch and commentate on motor racing, I've got to say that run down into the into the hairpin is one of the most tempting places to go for a lunge down the inside. I've seen so many drivers speared there over the years. I'm surprised we haven't seen one happen so far. Might be tempting fate saying that, but it's a tempting position to do it, and particularly Ryan Elliott all over the back of Coates. Elliott fresh with the fastest lap from the previous race, knows he's got a bit of momentum with him here. So it's Coates and Elliott for the lead, and Josh, where's his best chance going to be to try and get through?
Well, I think he's now going to look for a good exit off this next corner, and then, as you said, look for a run down through here into the hairpin. But I don't think he's quite close enough. So he's now going to be thinking, right, could I get a good exit from here down onto the start-finish straight? But still, Max is driving very well here, and he's just elongated that gap. And we know from Knockhill it's not the best overtaking circuit. So all Max needs to do is keep his car online and keep a good pace, and I think he should be fine. But
so Simon Reed and Kim Economy having an off in the back as we watch Senna Proctor in 4th place. Rides a little bit of curb there. He'll not want to let the top 3 get away. Coates, Elliott, Butler, 1, 2, 3 at the moment. Rat Richards has come through very well indeed, 5th place, with Tobin Lee in behind him. Jack Mack ahead of Dave Marshall at the moment. So MacIntyre in 7th, which equates to 30 points as opposed to 26 on this race for Marshall. But they're just into the situation really where they're going to let the race settle down as we watch Senna Proctor trying to close down on Rob Butler. Things relatively settled at the moment, and Richards, the man who perhaps is the only one in the top 6 doing some challenging, trying to get on the back end of Proctor as they come up across the line once again, with Max Coates out front. Ryan Elliott in P2. Let's have a look. Fastest lap thus far is with Ryan Elliott again. Elliott has got some decent pace here, so Ryan Elliott will be keen to keep that up. Max Coates incredibly looking for his first win of the competition.
Yeah, Max has also got championship on his mind. You know, he mentioned this morning on interview that you know, he had the championship on his mind, and that's what he wanted to secure and get the job done. So, you know, if he feels that he can't put up the fight against Ryan Elliott, then perhaps he might give that position for the sake of the championship. He's very clever like that, and he knows what he's looking for in the long term.
He does. He'll have the big game plan in his mind for sure. So Coates and Elliott going across the line again. Rob Butler still in 3rd place. Nice to see Rob in a potential podium position. Senna Proctor is still there in 4th, and Sen 1 second down at the moment on Rob Butler. But surely as this race continues, in with a shout perhaps of maybe getting a maiden podium. But the key thing here is also looking at Jack MacIntyre in 7th and Dave Marshall in 8th, the 2 guys 1 and 2 in the championship, who are going to be battling hard. And of course there is that matter of the points between them. The key thing for Marshall is he's only 1 place behind Jack Mack at the moment, so that's going to be good points limitation for him as we watch Senna Proctor trying to close in. Proctor coming under a little bit of pressure from Matt Richards. Proctor trying to put pressure on Rob Butler ahead of him, and Dave Marshall exploring the outside line there as they go through the hairpin.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's trying the different lines through the hairpin. As I said, there's hardly anywhere to overtake around Knockhill, so you've got to be adventurous, you've got to be ambitious. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's part of the parcel of overtaking around here.
He'll keep going for it for sure. Matt Richards closing in on Proctor, so Senna will have a look. That's a classic shot of the cars just running a little bit wide as they come out of MacIntyre's corner and up towards the gravel. Now, was that track limits by Dave Marshall? I don't think he had anywhere else to go as they went through the chicane, but he'll be mindful of that. Damien Hall was mindful of it. He just snuck back in to make sure he didn't. Now here comes Jordan Brennan in the mix as well. Jordan dicing with Josh Martin. This is for 7th place. Martin in 7th. Brennan's got a good run here. Looks like he might be able to tee up the inside line. MacIntyre and Marshall immediately behind. And down behind them, Max Bird trying to get up into the top 10 as well. Tom O'Farrell is busy chasing Tom Williams, who's in 12th position. Damien Hall in 14th. But it's still Coates out front. That 0.6 of a second clear of Ryan Elliott.
Yeah, Max is now going to start to try and build that gap if he can, or even work with Ryan just to try and, you know, secure that podium or win. That's what he's going to be thinking about. He's going to try and build that gap, make sure that no one can get past him, and then hopefully get the win.
Be good to have another first-time season winner if that happens. The gap is certainly close at the moment between those two. Rob Butler still running in third, Proctor in fourth. Look at the stream of cars coming out of the hairpin. This is real close stuff, and again, in the real world championship, this is by design. Sometimes you'll get someone who might break away and get clear, but the reverse grid race is going to, you know, by definition, throw up a very competitive scenario where you get the faster guys trying to come through, and it can mean that you get a little bit of a concertina effect. Max isn't at the moment being able to get away. Richard's putting pressure on Proctor again for that fourth place.
Yeah, exactly. The reverse grid races do throw up some really good racing. It gives the guys that are kind of mid top 10 a real chance to get for that win, and it gives the guys that are consistently at the top to push through and really show their class.
Elliott, Butler in third, Proctor in fourth place, then Tobin Lee now ahead of Richards. As we look at the Matt Richards car in number 4, Tobin Lee up ahead of him. A bit further back, it is Jordan Brennan still in 7th place now, trying to close in on Matt Richards, but Max Coates here doing a pretty good job of soaking up the pressure, and it is pressure for him being out front in this race. As we approach the halfway distance of this one, it's a scenario that he's not been too familiar with in this championship. He's been up the sharp end, he's been on the podium before, but being in P1 is going to be a good confidence builder for him, and particularly, as Josh said, championship-wise, to grab those points over Isaac Smith, who's down in 15th position, and Josh Martin, who's in 8th. This is going to cement things for Max Coates as we head towards our final 4 or 5 races, depending on how things pan out over the week for these guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's really shown Max's class, actually, the way he just consistently scores points. You know, the fact that he's in the championship lead without a win just shows consistency, and how key that is to winning a championship.
Max Coates, what a season he had last year in the Renault UK Clio car. I know there was very little hesitation at all for Max to make the move into the JCW Minis, and such excitement building for this year's championship. It was a superb championship last year, and to get in front of even bigger audiences this year is going to be absolutely mega for the championship. And of course that might be a broadcast viewing audience if we run a couple of events behind closed doors, but certainly next year the real world spectators, I'm sure, will be allowed back into the circuits to watch the action for real, but we're going to have some superb coverage over the course of the season for sure. Coates out front still, soaking up the pressure, very nearly at the halfway stage. Ryan Elliott still trying to close in. Elliott working hard to try and close in on Coates, the race leader. Rob Butler in third, not really doing enough at the moment to challenge Ryan Elliott. Rob, I don't think has got the pace we've seen from previous rounds, but doing a really good job of maintaining podium position here. The affable Irishman working hard in third. Senna Proctor in fourth. That might be our next watch, actually, to see if the MSL car of Senna Proctor could close in and maybe grab a maiden podium.
Yeah, hopefully. I think Senna's showing really good pace, and yeah, he knows how to drive a race, so it'd be interesting to see if he can close up on the back of Rob and then maybe make a move.
Yeah, Bridgeman on shot, just putting pressure on Isaac Smith. Those two down in 14th, 15th, 16th position at the moment. Isaac Smith, again, not having the rub of the green today. Remember, was on the podium at Croft last time out, the reigning Fiesta champion. A very quick peddler, and last time, of course, he was up racing at Croft with Max Coates. Had several really good dices with Max around the Croft circuit. But just not having the rub of the green this weekend so far. Out front, Coates, Elliott, Butler and Proctor. Tobin Lee in 5th, Matt Richards 6th, Jordan Brennan 7th, then it's Josh Martin in 8th place. Dave Marshall significantly ahead of Jack MacIntyre, so 9th and 10th, those two. It means another point. So if it finishes like this, and fastest lap doesn't go to either of the first two in the championship, and I've lost my stream in terms of fastest laps at the moment, then it means that Dave Marshall would go away having extended the championship lead by a solitary point here, and that would be good enough for him.
Yeah, exactly. He came into the round wanting to maintain or slightly extend his lead, and that's what hopefully he will have accomplished. So yeah, job done for Dave. I don't want to speak too soon, but yeah, he'll be happy with this position. He's not going to want to take any unnecessary risks. or try and push for track limits or anything. He'll be driving the race for the championship now.
Yeah, absolutely right. I'm actually reminded of the first event that we had at Donington Park where he took 2 wins, and then the reverse grid races were 11th places, and he came away with a decent lead because he had fastest laps, pole position points as well. He knew that in his mind. He'd done the calculations, which is why Anthony called it the machine.
Yeah, exactly. It really shows the class and the talent of a driver to be able to drive consistently and on pace while also thinking of the external factors, championship, reverse grid, poles, things like that. It really shows talent in a driver.
Tobin Lee in the pink and white machine, running in 5th place, coming under pressure from Matt Richards. Then Jordan Brennan in 7th with the Union flag atop the car, trying everything that he can to close in. But really at the moment, the top 6 of the story is that 3rd to 6th is a quartet. The race lead is a battle between Max Coates and Ryan Elliott, and Elliott is not giving up the ghost. So we're seeing Elliott the attacker here, the aggressor, rather than defender, as we've seen over the previous few rounds, as Rob Butler is starting to break free of Senna Proctor now. Proctor coming under a bit of pressure from Tobin Lee, Matt Richards in behind. So even as I speak, the idea of the quartet chasing the duo has changed. We've got duo, single car, Rob Butler in 3rd, and then a trio for 4th, 5th and 6th position. So just goes to show how quickly the complexion of the race can change. And Ryan Elliott here is in a good place to challenge Max Coates as Tobin Lee looks around the outside line. He's got his nose in front of Senna Proctor, who's got the inside line as they come out of the hairpin. Through goes Jordan Brennan, still up ahead of Josh Martin with Dave Marshall line.
That looks like Senna Proctor's gone off in the background.
Oh, Sen! Oh dear, oh dear. That has changed things. So Senna Proctor off. Now, was there contact that forced that? We won't know unless we get the chance to hear from Senna. Hopefully, Senna's back next week. I think we've got him down as a driver to watch next week. So, very much hoping that he will conclude the campaign if we don't have Alex Toth-Jones next weekend. Alex, who's had a good campaign, 2 podiums as well from Alex Toth-Jones over the course of the season so far. And a reminder, you can catch up with all of the interviews on our YouTube channel as well if you haven't had a chance to meet the drivers, which is what the key thing was about. Those as Coates comes under pressure. Ryan Elliott looking at the outside line. Is he going to go for the cutback here? Takes a nice wide line in, and we'll look up the inside line. He's got to be mindful of Rob Butler in 3rd place, and he doesn't compromise speeds too much as they come up across the line once again. Coates still in control. Ryan Elliott is looking every way possible to try and find an advantage, Josh.
Yeah, exactly. I think Ryan's relishing the challenge of being the hunter at this point. Max with loads. Oh, he's got the inside.
Found a gap. Through on the inside line goes Ryan Elliott. He's been teeing that up for a while. Now, let's see what Max Coates can do in terms of a reply. The one thing you know about Max is that he is a fighter. He will carry on to the flag. And a big point here, as Josh has pointed out, it means that Max no longer has the pressure of being hounded unless Rob Butler closes up on him. And it means that Max is now the aggressor. He can take the battle back to Ryan Elliott out front. And of course, as we've said many times, Ryan Elliott is one of the best defensive drivers that we've seen in this championship. He may well need that here around Knockhill.
Yeah, exactly. Ryan knows what he's doing when it comes to defending. He puts the car in all the right places. He's very good at that. But now Max can do his own thing. He can hunt down Ryan if he wants, or he can sit there and think, yep, for me this is enough for the championship. This is what I want. I didn't want to get involved in an unnecessary squabble that could potentially take us out and damage my championship hopes. He's not going to be wanting to do that. He's going to be wanting to just rack up some solid points and extend that lead over his rivals.
Absolutely right. That's exactly what Max is going to be thinking. Ryan Elliott's ahead of him in the overall standings. Ryan Elliott 4th in the overall championship, and I haven't focused too much on the overall standings. As we watch Jack MacIntyre still busy chasing Dave Marshall, trying to close down to him, but he's lost a little bit of ground. Overall championship, Dave Marshall leading, Jack MacIntyre 2nd. Tobin Lee is 3rd in the championship from Ryan Elliott. They're the top 4. They're all sim drivers. So the sim lads heading the top real-world driver, Max Coates from Josh Martin, then Jordan Brennan, who's 5th in the sims. Isaac Smith 3rd in the real-world championship from Alex Toth-Jones. Rob Butler may well have passed him this weekend to move up into 9th position in the championship. Then Matt Richards and Luke Kidsley is next up. So that's the way the overall championship goes. It's been a fascinating day here, even with the 3 races on a rare dry day for us at Knockhill. And Ryan Elliott, the man who has had such an impressive season by my stretch, by my reckoning, has had a podium in the first reverse grid race of the season at Donington Park, and then grabbed another one in the second one at Brands Hatch. And as you've heard me say several times, he's taken 2 wins. The only meeting he wasn't on the podium was last time out at Croft, but he was only a gnat swing away. He was 4th position in the second race, so very nearly maintained that 100% record as we watch Tom Williams in yellow on the outside line of Damien Hall. Williams here takes the wide line into the hairpin. Down behind them is Isaac Smith running in 13th. Tom O'Farrell comes into shot as well. Senna Proctor is back on, down in 15th position, but it's Elliott from Coates with 3 minutes remaining on the clock.
Yeah, exactly. I think Max is going to be sat pretty happy right now. He'll be waiting to see if Ryan makes a mistake. Oh, looks like Rob Butler's just got past Max actually.
Yeah, Max won't be too happy about that. Butler, a fair few points, about 100 or so points coming into this meeting behind Max Coates, so not many points lost. A nice onboard shot here from Rob Butler, who's now going to try and see if he can close down on Ryan Elliott. And I'm afraid I don't have I need to maybe switch and have a look to see who's got fastest lap in this one, but Butler's still busy trying to close down.
Rob positioned the car really well there coming into the hairpin. He just managed to defend nicely from Max, but not scrub too much speed, so he's still got good enough exit onto the start-finish straight.
Yeah, he's working hard. I think Callum Newsham with fastest lap, so whether Callum did something from pit lane when he went out with the qualifying setup, which I know some drivers have done elsewhere. So he is at the back, but in 21st position. But anyway, going back to this one, so the reason I was looking for the fastest lap was in terms of the points that are going to go to the various drivers, and whether Rob Butler was going quick enough to be able to close down on Ryan Elliott out front. The gap 1.48 seconds. As we look at Marshall and MacIntyre, 8th and 9th. Marshall here, it's going to be good for him to be just ahead, and MacIntyre looks around the outside line. He's going to go for the cutback against a classic knockhill manoeuvre. No, he's going to stay right behind him at the moment. Josh Martin is ahead of them in 7th place. So it's Elliott still there with 1 minute 38 on the clock. Rob Butler 1.4 down, and Ryan Elliott looking for a 3rd win of the campaign. It's going to be good for him to be back in that sphere, and again, this is all good PR for him, looking to try and put his budget together to get out in the Mini Cooper Pros for his home meeting at Croft later on in the season. Fascinating battle going on here with Marshall and MacIntyre, though. This is the battle for the championship, Josh.
Yeah, they are. They're really good friends as well, so they both have a lot of respect for each other, so I'm not expecting to see anything silly from either of them, but this is some proper racing, some really talented drivers here, and it'll be really, really close. This is some proper racing now. And
you're racing against those guys in the Touring Car Championship, e-Championship?
I am, yes. It's good fun to race against them. They're really, really quick, and the Touring Car Championship runs a ballast, a success ballast strategy throughout. So if you win, you get X amount of ballast, whatever, which really starts to equal the field out quite nicely. So yeah, it's nice to be able to fight with these guys who've got a lot more sim experience than myself. But yeah, it's nice to be able to fight and learn off them as well. You can learn off every driver that you race against. So yeah, it's nice to see what they're doing here as well, and for me to look when I'm coming to Knockhill, later in the season to race with the minis, to see what I can do, to see what they're doing and then see what I can do.
Looking forward to that. Looking forward to meeting up with you in the paddock as well, for real, Josh. Absolutely superb. Coates coming under pressure now. He was defending, remember, a lead earlier in the race, and he's now defending a podium position. But we're into the last minute, the last lap of the race. Did they squeeze an extra lap out there? We'll get the graphics to tell us whether they did, in terms of whether it is the last lap or not. Coates is under massive pressure at the moment from Tobin Lee for that podium, and this is the key thing about mini racing. We don't have ballast, incidentally, because the real world championship doesn't as well. Great stuff from one of the traffic or slower drivers, moving out of the way of the lead drivers coming through. Hats off to whoever that was. It might be Craig Timmins, not sure, but it's still Elliott out front, 2 seconds clear of Rob Butler. So we're going to have 3 new drivers on the podium for this meeting, unless Tobin Lee can get past Max Coates. He's trying everything that he can to do so as they come down the railway straight. Once again, this is the tri-oval section, climbing uphill out of the hairpin, out of the tri-oval section again up to you can see the grid markers there. Difficult place to start here, because if you're in a big grid right at the back, you can't see the lights. You're actually going by the drivers ahead of you. You're unsighted. You go over the brow. Coates grabs the curb there. Is that going to dislodge the car? Looks like he's holding on to third place. Not losing touch with Rob Butler too much at the moment either as they go on the final lap.
No, exactly. Max will be trying to keep his head down. He doesn't want to be looking into his mirrors too much because that naturally does slow you down. But this is where the nerves are starting to set in now, and hopefully Max can now hold the position and keep his podium.
He's trying everything that he can up through Clark Cove for the last time, and it is form an orderly or maybe disorderly queue behind him. Coates holding on, grabs the inside line. That's a statement of intent from Coates. If you're going to go past, you've got to work the outside line, which is what Matt Richards is doing. Meanwhile, on the inset, we're going to see Ryan Elliott take the checkered flag. Elliott will take the win. Max Coates is going to hang on to third place. Elliott the winner, our congratulations to him. Rob Butler second. Max Coates with a hard-earned third place in the end there. And he completes the podium from Tove in lead, Matt Richards in fifth, Jordan Brennan sixth from Dave Marshall, who gets the better of Jack MacIntyre. Then Josh Martin ninth from Max Bird in 10th place. Max won another reverse grid race here and start from 10th, but hopefully we'll get that missing race put into the schedule if we possibly can. But Ryan Elliott takes a third win of the season. Our congratulations to him. Rob Butler back on the podium in second position. And Max Coates takes third. Of course, Josh, you've got to think about driver of the race. Who are your contenders?
For me, it's between the top two, actually. I think Ryan drove a really brilliant race again, but again, so did Rob. Some really good overtaking, some patient driving from both of them. Neither of them forced anything. They both showed really good pace. So for me, it's between those two at the moment.
As an outside bet, I'd love to throw in Damien Hall, who's been really on form this weekend. He's not managed to equal his best of a top 10, but you know, this guy's from Barbados. He knows nothing about Knockhill at all. He's probably never even heard of Knockhill before this championship. You watched Theo Bridgeman having a good run as well. So, but yeah, so but you know, 12 positions, relatively quiet meeting for him, but one to throw in the mix anyway. But ultimately, yeah, your decision. Let's go down into the virtual Parc Ferme, and as is now the norm, we'll do a 3-2-1 and catch up with Max Coates in car number 71, who does what he did at Snetterton, actually, wasn't it? It was a race 4 podium at Snetterton, a P2 there, P3 here. Max, you were put under. That was a bit of a workout for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It's a bit difficult. I had an off at turn 1 early doors, which is my own fault.
Right.
And then, to be fair, I had 2 more offs at turn 1 where people were just talking right as I braked into turn 1, and it really, really put me off.
Is that people on the stream or people in the house, or
so all the drivers are sat on the same voice channel?
Got ya.
The first time it was Dave Marshall saying sorry to Jack MacIntyre, and the second time Craig Timmins saying something about his car around and getting a drive-through penalty. So both of obviously were great concern to me, but yeah, it was a bit off as I entered turn 1, really.
In the real world, do you have to? This is something I need to find out. Do the minis have Raceiver? You know, the radio from the Clark.
Yeah, yeah, I bought mine a couple of months ago, so they definitely do.
But it's not going to be like it's not like driver chat, though, is it?
No, and it's you know, if it continues, or you know, you're just not expecting it. Yeah. And at Knockhill of all circuits, it's kind of a real place to put you off. But I thought sort of the first 15 minutes were going really well. Managed to hang on from Ryan, and then he stuck a real do or die move down the inside into turn 3. So didn't really have a lot of choice but to give him it, to be honest. And dropped a wheel.
The key thing, you didn't turn in on him, did you? I mean, you know, lesser drivers wouldn't have respected each other, and that would have ended in tears. But you guys played that out cleanly.
Yeah, there was not a lot of point in me trying to fight it, to be honest. I had more to lose than I had to gain. Yeah. So I just had to kind of go with it. Yeah, it was a hard move, but yeah, no contact, so it's all good.
Well done. Good to see you back on the podium, Max, and we look forward to catching up with you in the week. So Max Coates in third position there, very well done to him. And good to see Rob Butler back on the podium. Rob, quiet day from you. Haven't heard too much from you, but yeah, delighted to welcome you back to the podium. Tell us about your race.
Delighted to be back after the day I've had, or the couple of days I've had. We were struggling early with some issues with my direct drive motor, and look, I've done a full restart during the break, and it came back. I also made a massive brake adjustment on the car. I was really struggling in the last sector, and only I had Shanna Proctor in my mirrors at the start of the race, and I was trying to watch what he was doing. So I just made a slight change there, and it found me quite a bit of consistency throughout the race. But never, ever in a million years, if you told me this morning, but I think I was going to be on the podium. The speed was so bad, and I struggled so much. But look, Rich in VRRC gave me massive support through the last 24 hours to try and get everything working, and without him, I simply wouldn't be on the podium today.
Excellent. Tell us a bit about your sponsors, Suspension Secrets. Who are they? What do they do?
Yeah, so Matt Cowley is the guy that owns Suspension Secrets. He goes to track days and around to people and sets their car up for them, guys with little knowledge within the industry. Matt he's graduated out of Preston with a degree in motorsport engineering. One of the best engineers I've met in 15, 20 years of racing, but he literally supplies his skill set to guys that don't have the knowledge. So he goes to the track, they come in, they can get their car corner weighted, get their car fully set up, and then they can go out on the track day and receive support throughout the day.
Oh, that's a good service.
Yeah, well,
nice to hear.
Absolutely. Well, look, if you don't have a lot of knowledge in this sport, it's always very, very difficult to get something right, you know.
Absolutely right, and you can learn that. So from your point of view, Roy, that's the second place of the season. When are we going to get you on the top step, fella?
It's you've no idea how fast these guys are. Like it's so hard. If we were to go again with another series, I'd be so far in front of myself starting that it's been a learning curve. I've had to learn so much from the week before Donington Park to now. Obviously, it's getting a lot more consistent. I can race better, and I'm getting the maximum out of the tires. But look, it's just getting time. I've got a business to run as well, so it's so hard to do the number of laps that I need versus somebody like Dave Marshall or Ryan, who drove absolutely superbly today in the Fanatec car. So look, it's just about trying to get time on it. But look, I'm delighted to be on the podium. I honestly gobsmacked at how we're here. But look, again, true gentleman from Max. When I was on his inside, he didn't turn in on me, and we both got through, and we're both on the podium.
That's great. I'm sorry, I'm being a bit cheeky asking when you get the win. Well done on the podium.
Next week, Brands Hatch.
That's the one. Look forward to that. Rob Butler, who takes P2 today. Well done, Rob. Good to see you on the podium. We're going to move to our winner, Ryan Elliott. Ryan, do you know what? We were saying that the momentum was there because you had the fastest lap in race 3, and then starting up towards the front in this race. So congratulations, a fine win, back on the podium, and a hard-earned win as well because you had to nip past Max.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's great to be here again. It was honestly it's probably my best win of this season. Obviously, it's my third one if I'm correct. But
yeah, that's right.
I've sort of been having to defend for nearly 3/4 of the race, whereas this one I got the move on Max, and by the end I'd pulled a 3-second lead. I was really happy, but I just didn't seem to get it together in the other 2 races as well as this one. So I'm just happy to be back up here. Sadly, not keeping up my streak of podiums since I threw that one away at Croft. But
well, you still got a 4th place at Croft, so it was that was pretty good. But again, a 3rd-time winner, so in very good company. So super race from you, and just took that chance on Max when you were able to. What sort of prep are you looking forward to for Brands GP? Is that a configuration that you've done before?
Yeah, I've raced Brands GP a lot, but especially for me this week, I've had an issue with some of my hardware that I found last night, where I've lost the rumble vibration on my brake pedal for when I'm locking my brakes. And I found that out going into last night, and I've had to completely readjust my driving style. I kept nearly losing the rear, locking the brakes a hairpin every lap. So I think it's more going to be learning that. I really wasn't expecting to be as high up as I was. I'd only done 30 laps of practice coming into this weekend compared to the 250 odd of the guys at the top.
Yeah,
Croft took a real toll on me. I just needed a little bit of a break.
Yeah. And Knockhill's a circuit, I think, where you actually need the practice because it's, as my co-commentator Josh Danton said, there's no let-up around Croft, is it? It's tight, it's twisty, it undulates. you've got to be on it right the way. There's no break for you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's one of them where if you get the floor wrong on one corner, like coming out of the chicane, saying you run a little bit wide on the gravel, you just knock in at least half a second out of your lead. But that one I managed to get away unscathed, and it was a really hard fought victory. I completely respect Max leaving the space there for me, and same with Rob when I try to go around the outside of him in turn one. Really good racing by the both of them. Really happy with that.
And obviously the aim is to get on track for real. How are plans going with the real world plans? Are you any closer to getting on the grid for Croft for the Cooper Pro?
Tricky, very tricky. It's never easy. It never gets given to you on a plate. It's taken a little bit of a step back recently, but like I say, we just hopefully reaching out to people on these etc. will help me get into that seat. We've got till October. We've got plenty of time.
Fingers crossed that we get to see you out there, Ryan. Well done on the win. Congratulations. And fastest laps. As we said, the momentum and speed was there, and you kept at it and wrapped up our day with a win. So well done. Ryan Elliott, our race winner of our third race of the day, which purports to be race 4. More of that anon. Second position, Rob Butler. Good to hear from him again. And also great to welcome Max Coates back to the podium as well. And Josh Stanton, can I first say thank you again for your excellent company on commentary with us. It's not the easiest thing to do, commentate virtually with somebody, but you've slotted into it so easily and given me such great support. So many thanks for that. What are your thoughts on the driver of the race for race 3?
For me, Rob Butler. I think showing he's done really well over the rest of the season. He said himself he was struggling, and I think he showed his real class and driving ability in that last race. So for me, he would be my shout for driver of the day.
Good call. So don't forget, you can vote on our feedback as well and give us some social media comments as to whether you agree with what we've come up as driver of the races and to vote for your own driver of the day. But we were looking at Jack MacIntyre, Rob Butler, or championship leader Dave Marshall as driver of the day. They were the 3 drivers of the races. So that's the choice that we have there. Keep your eyes on social media. We don't have the championship standings for you just now because it's quite a complex thing to do, and obviously the clerk of the course, Andy Ringland, will be looking at all the comments from the drivers as well. But we have one round left, which is next Saturday, Brands Hatch GP circuit, as is the traditional home for the touring cars. I know we're racing on the Indy circuit last time out this year because of light issues and everything else, but that's the traditional home, and I'm sure we'll be next year. So that's where we are next week. And I do hope that we will have the pleasure of your company for our live feed, which again should go live at 11:50. We might have a little bit longer with an extra race. We'll wait and see. So from all of us on the team here today, with Mike and Rich, Josh Stanton, absolute pleasure. Thank you, Josh. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you everyone for watching.
From me, Richard, John Neal, and all of the team, all of the drivers, thanks ever so much for watching. We look forward to your company next time. Be safe, and we'll see you next week at Brands Hatch.